I want to call to order this Grand Haven City Council work session. Nancy, would you call the roll?
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Fritz.
Here.
Rupert.
Here.
Caleb.
Here. We have one item on our work session agenda this evening. It is the Gold Blue Star Garden, Gold/Blue Star Garden by the Tri-Cities Garden Club. So we would ask the Garden Club representative, she would, oh, that's not the way it's, oh, Dale, all right.
It could be either or both.
Okay, or both. Let's do it together. That's always good.
If you don't know, this is Judy Lundfeller. She's the president or chairperson. Vice president of the Tri-Cities Garden.
Come right up to the microphone.
Come to the podium and tell them what this garden's about, and I'll tell them about the design.
Well, you got to go to the podium because otherwise Eric doesn't, it won't broadcast. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Come
right,
right
up, right there.
Yeah, I was headed that way.
And tell us who you are, and that's so everybody knows at home,
Right.
so they can hear you good.
Do what?
Tell us who you are.
I'm Judy Lindemalder from the Tri-Cities Garden Club. I am the first vice president, and also I am on the committee that is installing or planning the Blue Star and Gold Star Memorial downtown in the waterfront right by your new stadium, that first planter box by the wall there, that it's a red maple tree, I think. The Blue Star marker, I don't know how many of you are familiar. The Blue Star is a memorial for the active military armed forces, and the Gold Star is for the armed forces that were lost in the field. And so we're putting two markers in, and they'll be on a boulder. They're glued or screwed, however the landscaper does it. And it'll be planted, and the Tri-City Garden Club will maintain the garden, and it will have blooming flowers and shrubs in there, so that will look very nice all the time. Any questions? I have brochures if you'd like to read about it. If you would, it's up to you. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it.
I'll take one.
You take one?
Yeah, if you have them at the handout, that would be awesome.
And this came up at, previously, the city council had been asked to approve an event they're going to have on July, when? 29th? 27th.
The dedication is going to be the first day of the Coast Guard Festival, July 27th at 1 o'clock. We have a lot of dignitaries, and the mayor will be there to welcome our guests. We're the Tri-Cities Garden Club, so we represent Grand Haven, Ferrysburg, and Spring Lake. So we have the three, mayors there, I guess. And we will have the band. We'll have a 21-gun salute. We're expecting around 200 people, and we're working with Shar to have chairs there. And we have 7 Gold Star families that are local. They will be acknowledged, and the Blue Star families that are there. So it's good. We have refreshments. We're going to have cookies, Culver's ice cream, and water. So it's going to be quite the.
Whereabouts is this exactly located again, so people at home can? So you're talking in the background back there. Can you explain where this is going to be located at?
Okay. Okay.
Speak up, Betsy, so you can hear.
Well, I just want people at home to hear it, that's all.
I'm Dale Quakel, Grand Haven Garden House, and Grand Haven resident. The Tri-Cities Garden Club asked us to design a garden that would honor both Blue Star families and the Gold Star families. They have picked the location, which is, if you look at, do you have all this, so you have this little drawing in your folder?
Yep.
So there's a new diagonal sidewalk that runs from the parking lot there right at the marina over to the waterfront stadium. And it's the first tree north of that. It's a Crimson King maple. Previously was planted several years ago. So that group has gone to Derek and got permission and ran it by the people, Earl and so forth. And because of the Tri-Cities great job they've done, the garden club with the previous garden that was right by the depot there, they said, yeah, these people are responsible. They'll take good care of it. So we designed it. It's plants that were chosen for 3 reasons. First of all, they do go in the shade because they're right underneath that tree. Secondly, there's going to be good color from spring till actually year-round, because we have an evergreen kind of a knot garden made out of some boxwood underneath there. And we have a plant called Hakoni grass, which is gold, to symbolize the gold star families. And then we have some blue hydrangea that will help symbolize the blue star family. And then an area for annual flowers in front of that. So that picture right there, it's that tree, but of course that stadium doesn't look like that anymore.
Can you,
And it's orientated towards that diagonal sidewalk so that folks walking up and down, they'll see those monuments right there, and they're significant. Though the rocks are probably 30 inches across, and so they have this big bronze plaque on it. So.
can you bring that up at all, Vester, to kind of pinpoint on that whole gigantic picture where exactly it is?
It's dead center on the screen right there.
Right where the,
Yep, third
brown.
slip.
okay, right there. Okay, awesome, all righty.
So there's currently a raised bed there, and the garden club has already gone down and pulled out the plants. And there's that borders a stone border around it that's existing, so that remains. Any other questions?
All right, no, I for one am glad that the garden club found another spot to beautify down there, and nothing better than to honor, memorialize our active duty military personnel, as well as those that have lost their lives. So appreciate you doing that.
Cool.
And thanks, Dale, for designing it all. It's your, this is the master.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments? We're good. All right. Thanks, Pat. Was there other things that you wanted to bring up during this work session, which?
Well, if that's all right, I think since we have time and both of our commissioners are here, I thought we might be able to jump right into the presentation that they were going to make at 7:30, if that's
All right.
okay with our commissioners.
Sure. All right.
That'd be fine.
Yep.
I'll come forward first. Roger Bergman, 214 Washington Avenue. And rather than talk a lot, Vester has a video that's kind of a nice video. And we're going to show that first. And then my fellow commissioner, Phil, who is Phil Kyers, who is in charge. He has the 9th district, which includes, I think, Denny and, does it you, the mayor?
No, I think it's the third precinct is more,
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Pat. So he's going to make his presentation after my presentation was just kind of slick.
Sorry, Phil.
if you do say so yourself, right? Okay.
Here we go.
Hi, my name is Phil Kyers. I'm County Commissioner. I'm District 9. I've been a county commissioner for the past 18 years. I'm very passionate about my job, but I'd like to emphasize that. One of the things I've been working on is a water study resource. I've been a chair of that for the last 4 to 5 years. You know, it would seem like the aquifer we have here is always more than sufficient, but we have different places in the county that we're having salt water turn up. It's brine. It's not being regenerated by the Lake Michigan like you think it would be. So in the future years, we're going to figure out some way we can regenerate the aquifer. There's places in Allendale that are running out of water. There's places in Coopersville that are turning salt water. So we're doing a plan with planning and performance that will kind of give you a layout where we should have infrastructure and where we can have wells. There's some places that we just can't have wells. We need infrastructure. So that's one of my passions there. I've been dealing with economic development. We did a field project in here, one on Grand Haven, a couple in Spring Lake. So that's what I'd like to emphasize. I've been on Parks Board. Parks Board is my passion here in Ottawa County. I think Ottawa County has the best parks in the state of Michigan. I visited all the parks in the state of Michigan, so I'd like to emphasize that. And I'm going to put a political plug in for myself. I'm running for re-election. Been a commissioner for a long time. I think I'm one of the senior commissioners. Well, I know I'm the senior commissioner. I'm not the oldest commissioner, but I am the senior commissioner there. So I'm bringing a lot of knowledge and a lot of stability to the county, and I'd like to continue to do that. So safety, I've been endorsed by Sheriff Kemker. We work good together. I think the people we have in the county is one of the best group of people as far as the elected officials, between the clerk, the treasurer, the prosecuting attorney, and the sheriff. I mean, it's never been a better group of people that has been working to further the county of Ottawa. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh,
sure. Questions.
And I just wanted to reiterate, Phil, ever since I've been on council, on the commission, he's been there, and he was the chair when I first came on. And he's been around, and the experience that he has, working not just with us locally, but also working with the state representatives as well on the MAC board, Michigan Association of Counties board. Okay, thank you. So his experience in working with Michigan Association of Counties, and soon to be possibly president of that, I think his experience that he's had with the county has I've learned a lot from him. And I would just re-emphasize, you know, some of the things that he talked about with our parks. I am just so excited about the fact that we have the best park system, and you all are part of Ottawa County. You can be proud of the fact that, you know, when we go to statewide events, they talk about Ottawa County's parks, but not just our parks. They talk about Ottawa County as being this premier county, and we also see this on the national level when we go to the National Organization of Counties. We see it there as well. Ottawa County is often referenced as this premier county that does things right, and we have an administrator that does an excellent job. So rather than talk anymore, do you have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I do have a question, and that is, do we know why some of that water is, and I don't know if it's actually salt or if it's just brackish water, at what point it's at?
I mean, the usage of the water has increased. You know, we look at the population growth. Everybody's stabbing wells down. You know, it just comes to a time we can't do that. So, you know, if we're going to look 20 years down the road, you know, we're going to have to look some way to regenerate that aquifer. And I guess one of the biggest, you know, things we're going to have to conquer is how we put water back in there that, you know, is clean water, you know, with all the pollutions we have around here. But we will work on that. That's just the next couple of years what's going to be down the line.
The more of the question that I have is, what's the source of the brackishness? Is it because, I mean, there's got to be something down there that's creating, so it's not just because you're...
In your aquifer, you have your fresh water, and then underneath you have your brine water. And when you pull so much fresh water off, the brine water starts coming out because there's not enough pressure for the fresh water to keep the brine water
so
down.
the brine,
it's always been there.
So it's heavier than,
yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, but is that, I know that there's a lot of salt under Michigan, so is it just because of the density of the water, or is it because there's a source down there that makes it brackish?
No,
do we know that? Do we not know that?
I would think it's a density of water that
Okay.
pushes the Brock
All
Pond
right.
down, so,
It's
yes.
kind of interesting, if I can interject. I remember the first time I went to one of these, and the guy from Michigan State talked about the Marshall Aquifer, which is the what's under us. It's the Marshall Aquifer. It starts up in the northeast part of the state of Michigan. So you're up at Bay City, so you know where there's salt mines.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look on the internet at the Marshall Aquifer, you're going to see that the direction of that water is towards the Grand River, and it comes down from the northern part of the state and comes down this way, and that's where we get our water. That's where the deep well,
Okay.
so to speak, that's where the deep water is.
Is it because,
Marshall Aquifer.
it's a part of the fact that we're a basin and so the water underground,
Yes.
not physically, substructurally, we're a basin,
It has
and
to
so,
do with the glacier that came through, you know, when God created the world. Remember that?
well, it's been at least, it's been about 10,000 years that the glaciers have left us, so.
When that glacier came through and scraped all this, it created this aquifer that's down there.
So I sit on
Okay.
the Agriculture Committee for the National Association of Counties, and we do lobbyists for the county for agriculture, because I am the only farmer that is on the board that is agriculture. I've been a dairy farmer for 40 years. But in Idaho, we just had a conference out there, and they regenerate their aquifer all winter, and they put as much as 330,000 gallons in a minute back into their aquifer, and they use it all summer for
Okay.
water. So, he said, you people in the East can do it, you just gotta learn how to do it. So
All right.
I think
Well,
it's interesting.
I didn't, that'd be an interesting thing to know how they go about doing that. That's, fascinating, so. All righty. Anybody else? Okay, thanks a lot. Oh,
Yeah.
hey.
Roger had asked me to touch on our Fulton Street project. Through the Economic Development Administration, funds are made available county by county, and we're asking Ottawa County to help us prioritize Fulton Avenue from Beach Street to US 31. We've been looking at this for a long time. We all recognize that it's a very heavy route that carries a lot of employee traffic for our industrial areas. We estimate better than half of the employees that work in Grand Haven probably use this on a daily basis. So it's probably 2,000 to 2,500 trips twice per day using this route, either coming up to Griffin Street or they come straight out to 31. About 200 truck trips per day are estimated on this route. So it's a critical route, and before long, a couple of you may be calling it a donkey trail or a goat path? Or
Goat path.
The goat path and the donkey trail, because it's getting there. But to properly restore it, we need to do the water underneath it, of course. We're looking at lining it. We're going to line the sewers, but we really want to get it done. It's about $2.5 million. And I asked Vester to call up this particular shot to underscore something that we're going to kind of shoehorn into the application. If you look at this area right here, this is Albee Street, and where Albee dead ends here, there's city right-of-way that dead ends up to the backside of this industrial property. Sorry, Phil, I got to do it back here. So here's the old Spectra Products. Now it's the Wind Center. A&B Machine is in here. And this property here is where we're hoping Ericsson CS Electric, which is now located here, is thinking about doing an expansion. And if they can expand here, they'll add somewhere upwards of 30 jobs. And if we can just get this little bit of right-of-way improved right here and put in a cul-de-sac as part of this Fulton Street project, we'd like to maybe pull all that together as one project. We've got costs to do that cul-de-sac, and I think it's going to be a couple hundred, maybe $250,000 to get it done right, along with the Fulton Street project. Wrap that all together as an economic development project, present it to the county for prioritization as an important regional improvement that will better our all-season road network to keep our industrial parks thriving like they are. I mean, they're growing out there and they're investing, and that's Grand Haven's largest employer is the manufacturing sector, and most of it's out there by the airports, and they come up Peachtree, and a good number of those employees, that population, are coming from Muskegon County. So I just kind of wanted to take that opportunity, as long as we got both our commissioners here and the whole city council, and we've not really talked about it. It's an opportunity that just came up in the last couple weeks. They're updating the community economic development forms
Yes.
that the county submits each year to get on their list. So we're hoping to get to the top of that list and perhaps get funded as much as 50% of the project. So it could be, you know, $1.5 to $2 million grant in the next couple of years.
You would be in line with about 50 other projects.
This project,
I know.
Mr. Commissioner,
It-
has been on the list before.
Yes, it has been. And
Uh,
actually, I think it was number 6 or 7 on the list from the top. So,
Yeah.
So we're moving up, and we'll be at the top.
You know what, we have great grant writers in Ottawa County, that's what they do really well, so. Economic development, yeah, you can be proud of them.
okay.
Excellent. So we're looking forward to some assistance there, and we'll
Okay.
talk to those grant writers, get a little help.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll be up to
Yeah,
number
thanks for
5 in no
that.
time.
Yeah, we'll get up to number 5 this year.
Hey, we're moving up,
Thanks for that endorsement.
moving on up.
All right. Oh, we got about 5 minutes to go here, so,
I've got maybe one other item we could
okay, all right.
cover.
You know, I'm curious, Scott, are we live at broadcasting too? So we are on radio live, we're also on YouTube live, so we are wired and open to the public. Yes, Pat?
Worldwide,
Worldwide, around the web.
you can be watching us right now. And I'm hesitating because if you'll remember last week, I checked and Vester had it on his laptop and I had it on my phone. And I was so happy when I looked at it and I saw there were 2 viewers. Vester.
My
Well, if
daughter
we
was
get-
one.
From across the
If
world.
we get 4, we'll have doubled our,
Or at that rate, before long, it'll be 1 million.
that's right.
Double it every week.
Oh, and by the way, Dylan Getz is our Alex for the night, so welcome, Dylan. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, Pat, my daughter, I come home, she says, yeah, there was 2 people on there and she was one of them,
Okay.
so.
Well,
Hey, we're going places.
Moving on up.
We're moving on up.
I think we had a nice press release go out last week about the system. Ashley Latch, our summer intern, put together a nice press release and sent it out, so maybe we'll get some recognition and get more people watching it,
All right,
20 or 30.
open to the public.
Hold on,
What was your
I'm
other?
gonna log on right now. I think I'll help us out a little bit.
All right,
Okay.
it'll be
that
number
count up.
3. All right, what was the other thing, Pat?
Well, we may get time to cover this. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Dewey Hill. We have a no trespassing zone on the front of Dewey Hill where we're keeping people from walking up and down. And our goal is that with time, we'll get some dune grass planted up there. It's not very practical to haul sand up there for obvious reasons. There's no way to truck it to the top, and you really can't carry that. I mean, the type of volume we're talking about is not something we could hand carry up there. So we're hoping to get dune grass planted up there, and eventually the dune grass will begin to help capture sand and fill that path back in over several years, we hope. But in order to even start that, we got to keep people off that trail going up the side. One thing that has come up since your last meeting is the idea of the Coast Guard Festival letters, Coast Guard City USA, going across the front of the hill. They put the 103 lives lost in the Escanaba at the foot of the hill in front of the musical fountain, and they weren't very visible. They were somewhat obscured by some of the trees. And of course, with the big Coast Guard letters, it would block the musical fountain, so they're not real keen on that location. The top of the hill, they put pixels on all of them. They put those LED pixels. In order to remotely operate that from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill, they're anxious that it just won't work very well. They really want to keep those Coast Guard City USA letters where they've been for the last 9 years, 10 years. I'm not sure how long they've.
I don't think it's been that long.
8 years? It's probably been 8 years because I think.
Do I hear 7?
Somewhere between
9.5.
Okay.
5 and 10.
Several years. So, we've got this no trespassing zone, and they very respectfully put in a request and said, we understand that it is no trespassing. Are we able to put our letters on the face of the hill in 2018? So I just wanted to present that idea for discussion. And maybe we'll end up getting back to that if it's getting close to 7:30, if you think it, because I guess, the the one-time,
I'll be Eric, this is 2 minutes.
the one-time thing, that, just once a year, going out there and putting those up across the front of the hill. Maybe you let it happen this year and then call it quits once we plant dune grass up there. It's something that I'm not perfectly comfortable with because we are trying to keep people off there and we're trying to make it very evident to all. And so we really are trying to keep people off it, period. But that's really a city council call. So the group has asked, and it's not Coast Guard Festival and it's not the Coast Guard. It is our musical fountain team and Roger Jonas that's asking, because they're the ones that handle that for them, that light it up and make it happen. So they're the ones that have been talking about it, and Ryan Strayhorn and Roger Jonas have reached out and said, will the council consider letting us put those letters across the face of the hill in 2018?
Okay.
And with that,
With that, I think we're about to roll over into 7:30.
Good.
But not quite, unless we want to start 30 seconds early. All right, it's 7:30. Thanks, Eric.
Yep, just rolled over.
Enough.
So with that, I will adjourn our work session and call to order our Grand Haven City Council meeting. Nancy, will you call the roll? I almost called you Linda.
Yes. Here.
Yes.
Yep, here.
Yes, I'm here also. So our invocation this evening will be given by Pastor Ray Paget. Grand Haven Community Baptist Church, please remain standing after the prayer for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you for the opportunity to pray for the council meeting. I wanted to read just one portion of Scripture to remind us about government and responsibilities that you have, of which we appreciate and certainly honor. In Romans chapter 13, in verse 1 and 2, it says, "Everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God." We thank you for this city, and we thank you for these leaders sitting in these seats of responsibility to guide and direct the affairs of Grand Haven. And so we'd ask tonight that you would give them great wisdom in their discussions and the discernment and the needs of decisions they need to make. And we thank you for this great country in which we're able to live and prosper, and we're also thankful for the freedom to worship in the way that God leads. And so we thank you for that. In the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming, and we always appreciate our local pastors come and do the invocation before our council meetings, getting off to a good start, so appreciate that. We have several reappointments to consider this evening, and Nancy, would you like to read those?
Reappoint Chris Costomo to the Airport Board with a term ending June 30, 2023. David Davis to the Audit Review Committee with a term ending June 30, 2022. W. Robert Huff to the Board of Review with a term ending 6/30/2024. Michael Fritz to the Brownfield Redevelopment and Economic Development Corporation with a term ending March 31st, 2024. Roger Kottner to the Duncan Park Commission with a term ending June 30, 2023. Barbara Lee Van Horsen and Dennis Swarthout to the Human Relations Commission with terms ending June 30, 2021. Christian Hudson and Chloe Weigel to the Human Relations Commission as student representatives with terms ending June 30, 2019. David DeYoung to the Loudoun District Library Board with a term ending June 30, 2021. Todd Anthus and Sharon Beam to the Main Street Board and with terms ending June 30, 2022. Ryan Cummins and Bill Ellingbo to the Planning Commission with terms ending June 30, 2021. And Melanie Reichels to the Zoning Board of Appeals with a term ending June 30, 2021.
All right, is there a motion to reappoint these members?
So move.
Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Say what?
Seen them on it.
So, yeah, where's that? Who is that Mike Fritz anyway? Michael. Are there any comments or questions regarding any one of these reappointments? If not, we will have a vote.
Fritz?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Ruger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. And this is a long list of folks that have served and are being reappointed for their second term on these commissions. This shows the number of volunteers it takes to willingly give of their time and talents to our many boards. So we appreciate each and every one of these folks as they're willing to continue their terms in office. At this point, we have our resolution of recognition as far to the Great Lakes Kite Festival, and I don't see the recipients among us.
They're on their way, so if we could
Okay.
maybe move along
Wait,
and then.
well, okay, as long as,
this item.
as long as they're coming, because we postponed it, so, but I was gonna do it anyway, because they deserve recognition or not, but we will wait. All right, County Commissioners report, we've done that, so we will move along to approval of the consent and regular agendas. Are there any changes?
I have none, Your Honor.
Any from up here? If not, all right, then I will ask for a motion to accept the agendas as presented.
So moved?
It's been moved and seconded. Again, if there are no comments or questions about the agendas, we will vote.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Ruger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. All right, at this point, we will have general business call the audience. This is the first of two opportunities for anyone to address council on anything that's on your mind. Just want to step up to the microphone. If you have a comment, just state your name, where you live, and let us hear from you. And I just want to make clear, this is not a give and take. This is your opportunity to speak to council and have at it.
Good evening. My name is George Gordon. I live at 522 Park Avenue in Grand Haven, and I just come to urge the council members and the mayor to about closing the Sims plan. It's long outlived its usefulness. It's kind of a toxic spot waiting to a disaster waiting to happen, and we could purchase power off the grid for a lot less money. So I would encourage you that I speak for myself and my wife that we would like to see that happen.
All right,
Thank you.
appreciate your comments.
Excuse me. This wasn't choreographed, just so you know. My name is Dr. Paul Keck, and I actually live next to the consumer, the Campbell Power Plant. And we built a retirement home there in 1980. And the reason I'm here is for two reasons, just so you understand, because I'm not technically a Grand Haven resident. We are seeking to find a different place to live because of the health concerns having lived next to this plant. And myself and many of the neighbors in that area are experiencing health ramifications of being exposed to the toxic things that are a result of burning coal. From a strictly a monetary point of view, we're considering Grand Haven, however, as a downsizing home. But if we're going to be faced with the same issues, health issues here as we are there, then there's very little impetus for us to move to Grand Haven, although we like Grand Haven. And so from a health point of view, I'm not sure if everybody is aware of the fact that the American Lung Association rates our air quality in this area as an F. I'm also not sure if people are aware that, and I'm speaking relative to the Campbell plant, but they're releasing approximately 120 tons of mercury into the atmosphere every year. They're releasing coal dust, storing in ponds. My understanding is you have 2 ponds here, which are semi-permeable right next to the water, which will have to be addressed, in addition to scupper sludge. And I guess the main thing besides overall health of everybody is Grand Haven is a huge community. One of the reasons we're attracted to it is for our kids and grandkids to come here. And the mercury specifically that's released from burning coal is very toxic. It's a neurotoxin to children. And I think it's incredibly important for the city council and the powers that be to step up to the plate and make a decision which is a health decision on the part of the people in Grand Haven and surrounding areas, because the plant is also contributing with prevailing southwesterly winds. Any city, specifically Spring Lake and further, with the chemicals released from the burning of coal. I appreciate the time to speak to you. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Newman. I live in Spring Lake, right over the river at 111 West Ann Street. And I'm also addressing the need to close the Sims plant. The City Council and the Grand Haven Main Street Board and the Grand Haven Board of Light and Power need to find a win-win situation on the closure of the Sims plant. When the snow melt system was designed and implemented 8 years ago, I'm wondering how the age and condition of the plant was taken into an account and figured into the expense of that, the eventual closing of the plant. It would have been wise to look ahead. The timing is complicated. The Grand Haven Board of Power and Light needs the City Council to approve the closure so planning can begin on many fronts, including dealing with Harbor Island and the coal and the ash ponds, and planning for a new smaller plant and a new snowmelt system. Conversely, the City Council wants a snowmelt solution before it approves the closure of the plant. I urge you to put your heads together, and I understand there will be a meeting in a couple of weeks with everybody at the table for a solution for the residents and businesses of Grand Haven, and a solution that recognizes that Grand Haven has an aging and expensive coal plant that will close in 2 years because it is becoming increasingly unsafe and prohibitively expensive to fix. So thank you for your time.
All right, thanks. There's I don't know if somebody's got a phone or something that's dinging out there. If you could turn that dinging off, that would probably be a good idea.
I'll make sure it's not mine.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm good.
All right. Anybody else?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Diane Sheridan, Grand Haven Main Street. And tomorrow night we have a volunteer appreciation event, and I would like to personally invite each of you. You should have received an invitation, at least via email. And we're inviting the community at large. If you've helped make downtown Grand Haven and Centertown and all of our neighborhoods, Old Town, Hilltop, Waterfront, a vibrant and healthy and wonderful place to be, we invite you to join us tomorrow evening, Tuesday, June 19th, at the Community Center at 6 p.m. We'll give you a burger and some potato salad and recognize you, and all share together on the successes we've had in the last year with over 4,000 hours of community volunteerism that we're able to log through our programs. And then we'll all go over to the Central Park and enjoy the first concert of the year. So please join us if your schedule allows.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Diane. Anyone else like to address council at this time? All right, this is your opportunity. And at this point, if no one else comes up, we will move on with right, the Nagans are here. So at this point, we'll go back to this presentation Because is Lynn hiding around the corner? Oh, there she is now.
She was, literally.
Okay. All right, I'm going to come up. If you want to meet me up with the microphone, I'm going to bring Liz with and try to embarrass you really bad.
I think you just did.
It's probably somewhere here, but I'm going to say it more, personally. I for one am extremely sad that we have seen the last of that particular kite festival. Now I'm here. We'll just leave that alone, okay? Because it is to me the onset of summer is on its way when the kite festival comes to town. There's nothing more fun than to go down there and watch these huge kites. I took my little granddaughter last year, and she just wanted to run up and touch them without realizing how even those biggest kites are really not as close to the ground as you think they are, because that's what she, at 3, wanted to touch one. I said, well, we'll go give it a shot. I don't think we can, but it's been such an amazing run for you all, and just want to say thanks for all that you have done for us. And besides that, you have just a fun store and all kinds of other things. So with that, I'm going to read this. City of Grand Haven Resolution of Recognition Great Lakes Kite Festival. Whereas in the spring of 1989, something new came to Grand Haven. Steve and Bob Nagan, 2 young entrepreneurs with an eye for fun and business, launched the first ever kite festival over our Lake Michigan beach. And whereas what started as a humble and fun Mother's Day weekend event grew in notoriety and popularity, becoming the unofficial kickoff to summer in West Michigan on the weekend before Memorial Day. And whereas for 30 years this event has brought fun and attention to our beach, attracting visitors from all over the world to our small town to create a special weekend of beauty, laughter, and joy. And that includes those amazing teams that come and do their acrobatics. They are totally incredible. And if you've never seen them, look them up because they are awesome. Whereas the revenue drawn to small businesses in Grand Haven is immeasurable, but full restaurants, lines at local merchants, and traffic backed up on Harbor Drive are clear evidence of a massive cash injection into the local economy each year. And whereas throughout the 30-year journey of what became the Great Lakes Kite Festival, Steve Nagan worked tirelessly to ensure its success, and he always had the support of his loving wife, Lynn, and children, Lucas, Clayton, and Anna. Now, is Clayton the artist? One of your kids is an awesome artist. If you've ever seen his stuff at the library, he is quite, I don't know about the other 2, but his name I remember. Not that they're not. I just
Probably watching on the internet right now.
Sorry. Or not. But leave that aside. Whereas such a contribution to a community comes only once a generation, and the Nagan family and Matt Kite are the fuel behind this epic event. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council hereby recognizes, thanks, and congratulates Steve and Lynn Nagan for their unconditional commitment to Grand Haven's beach culture, and hereby directs that an honorary banner be hung on Washington Avenue in recognition of this definitive Grand Haven event. Ta-da! All right, I think it ought to be the other way around. Oh yes, the penguin, that was so awesome. And a witness thereof, I hereto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Grand Haven, Michigan to be affixed on this 4th day of June, which isn't 4th day of June anymore, it's now the 18th, 2018.
You can take pictures of it all summer. It'll be hanging up downtown.
All right. So,
Yes.
absolutely, it's yours. So I'm going to present this to you and invite you to say a few words.
Well, it's been a great run. We love Grand Haven. Huge part of my life, my wife's life. Time to go. So we thank everybody for supporting us all these years, and you never know what the future brings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be around.
Okay, Steve. I'll give this to Derek to make sure he gets that up right away in a prominent location downtown.
What's the address at Matt Kite again? Maybe,
All right,
Thank you.
yeah. No, I'm gonna put in one more plug, is that Matt Kite and the amazing stuff that they have for kids there, and then the electric bikes, the boards, all the stuff that has gone into that, Steve and his family have done, very successful business and do a great job for the city of Grand Haven. And okay, where are we? The consent agenda.
There we go.
We are to the consent agenda. And if, Nancy, if you will read that, that would be awesome.
To approve the special work session and regular council meeting minutes of June 4, 2018. To approve the bills memo in the amount of $880,223.85. To approve a request from the Grand Haven Art Festival Committee to hold an artist reception on public property behind the Grand Trunk Depot building and to permit the consumption of beer and wine in this private event pursuant to section 5.12A of the city ordinances. To accept a grant from the Loudet Foundation in the amount of $5,000 for homeowner repair gap funding, which supplements the Neighborhood Impact Program for when projects go over the $7,500 limit and the homeowner cannot pay. To approve the Armory Anniversary 2018 special event scheduled for October 6, 2018, to be held from 3 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. in the parking lot behind the Armory, and to allow amplified music until 11:30 p.m. and permit alcohol consumption. To approve 4 MERS Healthcare Savings Plan Program participation agreements, setting forth the mandatory requirements for contribution of leave balances to the MERS Healthcare Savings Plan for all employee groups and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. To approve 4 MERS Healthcare Savings Plan Program participation agreements, setting forth the mandatory requirements for contribution of leave absences to the MERS Healthcare Savings Plan for all employee groups and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. To approve the proposed economic development strategic plan for the city of Grand Haven. To approve the equipment replacement purchase for a wood chipper in the not-to-exceed amount of $59,900 from Vermeer of Michigan.
All righty, is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on any of these items on the consent agenda?
Were there multiple quotes on the wood chipper?
No, the wood chipper is being purchased through a national purchase program that we're a part of that collects bid prices and presents the best one after they vet them. And, it's one of these, like My Deal. It's one of those type programs.
So fortunately, they were exactly $100 less than we budgeted.
Well, I don't know if Matt's here. Oh, he is. There he is.
Yeah.
All right.
Isn't that amazing?
Kind of
how that
sinking
happened?
down in his
Yeah,
seat
yeah.
back there when we started talking about it.
And we budgeted 60,000, they were 59.9.
Yes.
So, but the competitive quoting part of it happened somewhere else, and then
Yep.
we just were presented with a fortuitous quote.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
I guess I didn't really have a question, I was just making note of the fact that we published our budget and we got a quote that matched. Maybe if we had a more open process of bidding or competitive bidding, maybe it might have been 59.8 or some other number.
Well, we're members of this cooperative that seeks the best pricing and the best vendors that we can use. And then when we do the budgeting, we look up the current price of what we know it's going to be. That's the contract price for this particular piece of equipment in this region. And therefore, that's what Matt budgeted, and that's what the price is. The deck's sort of stacked in that respect.
Yeah, Derek Gates, Public Works Director. So these prices came out January 1st for the chippers that we were speccing, and so yes, we had those prices already when we did the budget.
Okay.
So it was kind of the opposite way. They were locked into their price, so therefore we budgeted appropriately.
All right, so it wasn't the fact that we tipped our hand on what we wanted to spend.
No, not at all.
All right.
It's a chicken or the egg thing.
Right. So maybe next year we'll budget $1. Is that what you were thinking, Bob?
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
1750.
1750. Okay.
Any other questions? Not? All right. Okay. I was kind of glad that, well, I know parking is at a premium, but I was kind of glad to see that the Armory is going to have their party, but they're not going to have it in the street. So we won't have a blocked off street. We will have a blocked off parking lot instead. So, but I think the street is probably a little easier for people, you know, transversing through town. So appreciate that change. So other than that, if there's no other questions, we are ready to vote.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes.
Ruger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes. On to new business when you're ready, Nancy.
To adopt permanent traffic control order number 2018-01 to convert Columbus Avenue from Harbor Drive to Fifth Street from one-way eastbound traffic to two-way traffic, and install, remove, and turn traffic signals as necessary. The administration recommends approval.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and seconded, and Derek is here to tell us all about it.
I am stepping in lieu of Chief Hawk. He's had a previous engagement this evening, so.
All right.
I'm just here to talk about the costs, or let you know that it's relatively small changes. So, and that's just an estimate. It could be less. I usually give conservative estimates on these, so but it's not very significant, at least for those first 5 blocks. From 5th to Beacon, we're still looking into the costs to that, and that could be significant with the railroad crossing there. So, do you have any questions regarding the cost?
Derek, I've got a comment on the shirt. I'm so glad that folks on the World Wide Web can see your shirt, and I hope they have sunglasses at home. Just as we should probably have them up here. I'm sorry.
Oh, it looks good. I have quit harassing Derek about
You
his
have,
shirt.
I know.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I'm sorry. Yeah, all right.
It looks very nice.
I got a compliment on the way in, just so I know. I did.
That's right.
It's nice. It's good.
Someone's
Happy
wife.
Halloween.
His wife likes my shirt, so.
They complimented the necktie.
That's all that
That
matters.
was terrible.
So, but the changes are largely paint and turning signs around at this point. And this puts us essentially where we were in 2010, 2011, when we did the streetscape, and we had 2 years straight where we had this two-way configuration on Columbus on these very blocks. And so, I mean, this was something that at the time I wanted to see left in place, and I know that Denny Scott had supported me on that, and that we thought it was working pretty well, and it promoted downtown development. And I'm glad we see we're going to give it another try. Whether it's truly permanent or not, we'll see how it works out, but I had no reason to believe it won't be. I think it will be good for the neighborhood.
Yeah, I think I call it a little bit of baby steps. I'd like to see it all the way to 7th Street at some point in time. I don't know how Beacon will work out. I understand there's a bit of a tie-in with MDOT and so forth on our, wait a minute, we don't call it US 31. What do we call it? Beacon, thank you. Beacon Boulevard, for the record, at any rate. But I'm very glad to see this change. And as Bob already said, as far as the businesses go, to promote a little bit of growth on the Columbus side, I think is a wonderful way to go. So, and back to 2010, I absolutely love the fact that I could go down 5th Street, Sheldon, take a left, and get to the library without having to do this strange roundabout thing. So just out of convenience, I'm thrilled. So there you go.
I didn't want to change it either. I don't know if I'm going out of turn, but I liked it the way when it was, during construction. I thought it worked out really well. Wasn't sure why we were turning it back to a one-way. I'm not sure it's real necessary to go past 5th Street as far as business is concerned. But I do think that, this, it's cost-wise, it's minimal, and convenience-wise, it's maximal. So I think we're doing well with the decision that go give this a try again. So I think this is great.
Maximal.
Maximal. I just made up that word.
You heard it here, folks.
It rhymes with minimal.
It does. That's
That's-
good.
Anything from,
I just, I thought it was a good idea to make it a two-way street from Fifth to Harvard also. I was concerned about the traffic coming down to Harbor, because of the traffic going that way. We might need a light there, but I'm willing to try it. I think it's worth a try and see what happens, and hopefully we won't need a light there, and I guess we could always make that a right turn only if we had to, instead of putting a light there too, so. But it's worth giving it a shot and seeing what happens over there. As far as 7th Street going, with the added cost of the railroad tracks that are involved in that, I don't want to do that. Maybe at a later date we could try that, but with the added cost involved in that right now, I think we're going to 5th Street is worth a try right there. With, like you said, without minimal cost to us.
I know we did a study back then, and we also had a input from the people that live on there. Did we get at this time again, did we ask the people at the Harborfront condos and that, what they thought about changing it back to two-way, or did we ask any other owners, or are we just doing this right here?
Just right here, it came up at the, I believe, I don't remember who brought it up and asked it to be placed on the agenda. I know it was DDA, but the city council did ask that it be placed on the agenda.
I was talking to some folks that live down there, and they said it's inevitable that you see people turning the wrong way on Columbus. So I think that it was less confusion for at least people that are visiting the community. So they say it happens all the time, so this would alleviate that problem.
This be the part where I clear my conscience and say I have turned the wrong way.
That was you.
That was me. Yeah, I'm sure I'm one of them.
Well, I think it's also noteworthy that the streets in this community, and particularly downtown, which the downtown is for the entire community, I don't think it's a tremendous inconvenience for the people down there. And I know that when we looked at this some years ago, that we had roughly 50-50 split on people's opinions at that time, and particularly from the downtown and center town areas. But it's more than just those folks, and that those folks shouldn't be made to endure something which is intolerable, but I don't think they're being asked to. But I also think that we are doing something for the downtown, the health of the downtown, and eventually for the entire community. So I think that you could do surveys and do surveys. You probably get a variety of opinions. We did have, and one of the things I said a couple of weeks ago was that I was looking for a broader consensus from the community than we had 6 years ago, when we put it back, because I don't think we had a real consensus either way to put it two-way or one-way. Like I say, it was roughly 50-50 split. But I think for the eventual health, the ultimate health of the downtown, getting rid of one-way streets is better than keeping one-way streets which do not have the traffic on them to warrant being one-way. And Columbus simply doesn't have the traffic. So I think that it's the thing we should do, not just for here and now, and not just for the immediate convenience or inconvenience, but for the future.
Any other comments? Oh, I guess we're ready to vote.
Ritz,
No.
Manetza,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Ruger,
Yes.
Caleb.
Yes. All right. Next item.
To approve the 2018 Coast Guard Festival Special Event Application as presented at the June 4, 2018 Council Work Session. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
And support.
Been moved and seconded. Did you want to make a comment?
Well, I don't know if this would be a point you wanted to take up the letters that I had been talking about during the end of the work session. Mr. Smith had a funeral out of town tonight, so he was not able to join us. I told him I would take very careful notes and let him know what the discussion was about tomorrow. But everything's teed up. Char did a magnificent job of summarizing everything in a presentation that was at your last work session. That's in your packet tonight, and we're ready to ask City Council to approve the event for 2018.
So is our approval of this write-up, is there a decision on the letters implicit in this? Or is that a separate discussion?
I believe it could be a separate discussion, that it's not explicitly called out here as the letters will be on the face of the hill. It does say the letters will go up, and when we talked about it before, I think there was some implication, as I understood it, that those letters may not go on the front of the hill, but I wasn't crystal clear about it, so I just kind of wanted to make that crystal clear. Is that City Council's intent, or are we okay with the letters? So maybe we could work that into this discussion and into the ultimate resolution to authorize the festival this year. That perhaps, the approval is with the understanding that the letters are or are not okay where they've been in past years.
Well, I can lead off. I wanted to say at the work session last time, I didn't get it in there fast enough, but to Mike and the entire Coast Guard Committee, thank you, if you're listening, for your flexibility with Waterfront Stadium and the changes that have taken place down there, and for your willingness to come up with some different creative options for how to present a number of events that they have historically presented in the single format of the old Waterfront Stadium. So just thank you for your flexibility. I joke with my guys on site about being flexible, and then I ask them if they can touch their toes. And I realize that the older we get, the harder it is to touch our toes and be flexible. And not that Mike's old, but there you go, Mike, wherever you are. That comment's for you. So thank you on that one. As far as the letters go on the Hill, my position's probably obvious on this one. I was the one dissenting vote on closing off all of Dewey Hill. So I'm completely in favor of the Coast Guard being able to put their letters, or the Coast Guard Committee and Mr. Jonas and the Musical Fountain Committee being able to put their Coast Guard sign up on the hill. I think it's a great part of the festivity, and I love seeing it up there. So there you go.
So prior to the meeting, during our work session, the brief mention you made of the letters, has Roger and Ryan ruled out putting them on the top of the hill? Did they say that doesn't work, or are they just not sure?
They expressed reservations in a series of emails this past week. Roger pointing out that the proximity is an issue. The further distance up the hill to get the equipment and the things they need to get up there on the letters was a real challenge, and I think his email said he wouldn't ask anyone to do that, it being the extra amount of work that it would be to try to get to the top of the hill with that stuff going around the side of the hill as we had suggested. The other, and I have not gotten any feedback from the fire marshal yet, but they speculated that the letters on top of the hill could be an obstruction to the firefighters who are trying to move freely around the top of the hill, dragging hoses and things throughout, to various sides of the hill. Those letters up there might create an intrusion on their efforts to suppress fires if they start.
More so than when they're on the face of the hill?
That they're more likely to need to traverse across the top of the hill to all different areas than just that one area on the face of the hill. So that sort of made sense. I get that because that's where they have their hoses and their hose packs and everything. They're all at the top of the hill there, and when they dispatch from there, they're going in any direction, and perhaps those letters up there could be an obstruction.
Well, unlike Councilman Bruder, I took pretty seriously the resolution to try to restore the face of Dewey Hill, and you do that by basically letting nature take its course, leave it alone, let it fill in with sand, let it get some dune grass. It's going to take a little bit of husbandry on our part, a little bit of effort to restore Dewey Hill. I mean, 100 years ago it was a bare sand dune, and it was planted by the people of Grand Haven to try to stabilize it and hold it as a landmark for the community, which it has been for a very long time. And we've allowed various uses on it, and I'm very pleased to see that we're trying to get it back to a natural state. So the less intrusion on it, the better. I would prefer to see them try to put the letters somewhere else. Of course, I never really liked the letters, but I understand that they're quite popular, and we have been through this argument. I'm not one to beat a dead horse, so. My feeling was they should not be on the face of the hill because we've asked everyone else to stay off the hill and because we have important work to do to restore the hill. And I think that that point should be very clear to everyone, including the Coast Guard Festival Committee and those who would like to put the letters on the hill. So my preference would be that they try to find either the top of the hill, the musical fountain basin, some other place which would be less intrusive if they're going to put them up. So if I don't know for sure that the motion that was made includes placing them where they've been, placing them in a different place, or leaving it flexible and open. As in the past few years, I will not oppose the Coast Guard Festival plan over the letters, and I would hope that they could be more sensitive. So I think that the rest of the plan is a good plan, and I think these guys do a great job. They put on a heck of a party. So sorry to see that this has come up again as an issue, but Dewey Hill is a very important piece for me and for the community.
I'll just add to Bob just a little bit there. If it's the view that they're worried about the trees and that, I used to sit at the end of my street, which I live on Clinton Street, and I used to sit down there and be able to watch the fireworks and everything else that goes on, but the trees have grown up. I mean, it's all over. We've had this point before, and some of the trees on the hill over there blocks the view, even of the musical fountain, if you're sitting in a certain location. I have to agree with Bob, we should probably stay off the face of the hill and make it work like on the basin. I saw the 103 up there. I saw the number 3 backwards for a while, and then they turned it back on the right way, so. But I did notice it. I could see it from sitting on Harbor there. It wasn't that bad. If you go down a ways, of course, there's trees in your view. You're not going to see a lot of that stuff up there. You don't. Even if you're sitting in Bicentennial Park and you're looking down at it, sometimes you don't even see nothing that's down in the lower level because there's trees that we planted there because we like to have the shade trees, and that's what it's all about. And they just grow up. And I think we need to stabilize our hill. That's what we wanted to do, and that's what we stated we were going to do. And I think we should stay on course and make sure that we get that hill back in things. If you look at some of the pictures, as I stated before, if you look at some of the pictures in the past, the size of that hill was a lot taller. I mean, and if you notice even 5 Mile Hill, if you go up the backside, the people that go up there, we have to keep dumping sand in there because every time you walk up there, the sand keeps coming down more. You lose your hill. So we have to make sure we can maintain the hill because we have a big investment with the musical fountain and stuff in there. So I think we need to stick by our guns and move forward. And as far as the approval that we have here at the Coast Guard Festival, I think Mike and his whole group have done a fantastic job of listening to us over the years. We've had some concerns with them, and they've taken a very good job of adding to it and taking care of the concerns, the cleanups, and the marina and all the stuff that I've been with here. He's done a fantastic job, and I'm not going to hold him back on anything on that. That is the festival itself. He's done a fantastic job, and he's got a good crew working with him. So I want to say thank you to all the volunteers that he gets out there.
Okay. I like the letters on the hill. I think they really add a lot to the Coast Guard Festival. I think they're very, very popular, and I think allowing them them to go up 1 week during the year, I don't think it's going to be that much damage to that hill, and I think we can allow that to go on. I would hate not to have those letters on there. It's been a tradition now for 8 years, and I don't want to prohibit them from being up there. I think planting grass up there is a good idea, but no matter what we do up there, when you have fireworks up there and you have hoses dragged up there and you have water sprayed up all over the hill, it's going to cause damage to the hill. There's no doubt about that, and we're sure not going to stop the fireworks from going up there. So. And I'm not in favor of not having the letters go up there either. So I'm going to vote in favor of putting the letters back up there. And as far as the Coast Guard committee goes, like everyone else said here that was commented, that the Coast Guard Committee did a great job this year. I think it's gonna be a great festival, and I look forward to it.
I don't, excuse me here, but that's not that I didn't want the letters on the hill. I just think a better location for them would be on the basin
heard you,
itself
Mike,
up there.
yeah.
So if you're insinuating that we don't want the letters on the hill, that's not what my intentions were. My intentions are that we need to find a location that it doesn't disturb the hill. We're trying to maintain it. That's what we voted on, so. They can find the location up there. They put the 103 up there. I could see that, as I was saying earlier, is that you could actually see the letters. I'm not against having put in Coast Guard City USA up there. It doesn't bother me none at all, but just, we need to maintain the hill.
Okay, is that it? Okay, I don't want to cut you short. From my understanding is that the top, if put them at the top of the hill, it interferes with firefighting and with the firefighters and the fireworks. Put them at the bottom of the hill, it interferes with the view of the letters and the view of the musical fountain. So, and the fireworks that will go down to the river, which is pretty spectacular. You don't want to interfere with. So it's kind of like the carnival. Maybe we'd like to see it somewhere else, but where are you going to put it? That's really the question. Is that, well, you know, it is to me. It's very special to the festival, and I think it adds a lot. And with the expanse of the new stadium and the view that it's going to give of the hill this year around, it's going to be you know, pretty interesting to see. So, and the other thing is that you know, if we want to look at, you know, has it done damage to the hill? I can't really say one way or another. There was a trail up there before. You can see where they're put, but is it because you can see where they're put because there already was a trail there, or you can see where there's put because they're put there? Now, I also think the first years that it was put up, it was done by a group of volunteers who are not very efficient. It's not ragging on volunteers. It's just they weren't very, you know, it was new to them. Now it's done by the coasties, and they're very deliberate and very, they save energy with, you know, making very few trips up and down to get the stuff up there. That is my understanding. So it's more efficient than it was before. There's less disturbance than there was before. So for all those reasons, I think it adds something to the festival. But I also am, you know, I'm cognizant of the fact that this is a sand hill. It's not consolidated. It is little grains of sand that blow away with the wind, and the rain washes it away. So I think you know, whatever we can do if Dan thinks that we can plant, you know, grass near that black line and have it collect the sand and then fill in on its own, whatever we can do to make sure that hill stays stable, I think is that what we should do, because, you know, sand, that's why they planted the sand on it. That's why it used to be so big and now it's shorter, because a lot of it blew away, because that's what sand does in wind. So, so whatever we can do to keep it as stable as possible, we need to do that and get that going. So, but in the meantime, as far as what the festival is planning on doing and keeping the letters where they are, I'm going to support that, support the letters for this year again, and again say it's looking forward to this festival and honoring the memory of the Escanaba and all that means to the city of Grand Haven. So I think it's going to be a good festival and looking forward to it. The only sad part is when it's over, it's like saying goodbye to summer, and I am really not ready to do that. So I hope this next month really drags along so that we enjoy every day between now and then. So those are my comments. Yes, Pat?
These parliamentary things are sometimes a little vexing, because I would hate to have two people have to vote no on the Coast Guard Festival because of this item. So what I'll suggest is, given the feedback that I've gotten, at your pleasure, of course, I could place it on the next agenda as an independent issue to waive the no trespassing order for this particular purpose, so it could be voted on as a separate issue if, in fact, I detect there may be a split vote, so that somebody's not put in a position of voting no on the Coast Guard Festival because of this. So I think this can, you know, we've got time between now and your next meeting to get that prepared and not wrap it in with this. You know, right now this is in approval of all the things that were presented last time. This was not called out explicitly as one of
Right.
those things, so I'll bring this back later, because I know there's strong support for everything that's been concocted and presented so far, and I think it'd be nice if there was a unanimous vote for that.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion to table this then?
No.
No, you can go ahead and approve it.
Okay.
I'll bring back the sign issue as a separate issue next
Okay,
time.
all right.
Manetza,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Bruger,
Yes.
Caleb.
Yes. All righty, next item.
To approve a request to allow the placement of Voyage Juice at the Marina parking lot during the Queen's Cup event on Friday and Saturday, June 22 and 23, 2018. The Main Street Board recommends denial. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and seconded. Pat, do you want to?
So this is
Explain
one of
what
those
the
unusual
request is.
times where we do have a split recommendation. The Sailing Club and the Queen's Cup asked this vendor to come down and set up to sell juice to the Queen's Cup participants on Saturday, this coming Saturday. Shar got approached and said, hey, we'd like this guy to come set up his juice. And she astutely said, above my pay grade, and threw it on my desk. And I said, it's also above my pay grade. I can't approve that. The event's already been approved. But city council can authorize uses of public property such as this if they so choose. And the idea that they would set up from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. This Saturday to provide one additional commercial outlet. And the rationale from administration or myself is that there's such a huge crowd here that day. Much like Coast Guard, we get hundreds of, not hundreds, dozens of vendors from outside that set up that help feed that demand. I think there's going to be very, very strong demand that day, and I don't think the one juice vendor is going to make a tremendous difference. However, the DDA feels that there are bricks and mortar establishments, several in the downtown district, that sell this type of product, and they would prefer not to have somebody who doesn't have bricks and mortar providing that. So, in a nutshell, that's it.
So what, this is just Saturday that they're gonna set up then, Pat, is that right?
Correct.
From 9
Till
to 11 at night?
No.
9 until 3 p.m.
9 till 3, okay.
9
All right,
a.m. to
okay,
3
all
p.m.,
right,
so
okay,
6
all right,
hours.
Okay.
And this is being brought forward actually by the Sailing Club.
Correct.
Are they gonna at least help them financially wise, or is there anything?
I don't think
I
anybody's.
have no, is there anybody here from the Sailing Club that could, but,
Shar received the request directly, so she might have more detail. I don't think there's any money changing hands.
no, okay, because I thought maybe it would be nice to help them for their roof.
Oh,
Shar Say, Community Affairs Manager for the City of Green Haven. Actually, the request came from Mark Erickson on this side of the water for the Grand River Sailing Club to add this in addition to the coffee vendor that's already going to be down there. So it was just kind of a last minute idea that came about, and the request came through, and so I thought I'd ask Pat if it was too late to bring it forward to City Council for one more consideration. As the DDA has expressed, I did say those same comments to not only Mark, but also the vendor, that it is a competing kind of a factor that is considered when these kinds of special event requests come forward. So we just wanted to present it to you. I do think it will add something to what's going on down there. There are going to be probably about 150 boats here from Queen's Cup, up to probably 1,200 sailors. They could probably use a juice and a cup of coffee by the time 9 o'clock rolls around. So.
Yeah, if you
But
know.
there's no money exchanging hands. This gentleman currently has a permit
Okay.
to operate, and he is operating up by the YMCA, by the skate park at this time.
All right. I don't have, being that this whole weekend is gonna be so packed, we're gonna have not only the Queen's Cup, but I think there's a sculpture in the sand, plus the art festival and everything. Our town's gonna be really, really packed. It's kinda like, you're right, Pat, I think you're actually giving a good perspective. It's not gonna be as busy as Coast Guard, but it's gonna be one of our busiest weekends that we have, because we have so much going on in the weekend. And I talked with one of the business owners down at Chinook Pier today because I'm working on his car. Asked him, hey, what do you think about this? And it didn't seem to bother him whatsoever. He says, as much people are down there, he says, I'm still going to be busy anyways. Russ Roberts.
Oh. He probably doesn't sell juice.
I asked him if he sold juice. He says, if you want me to.
So would I.
Well, if it's just juice,
So, getting back to Shar, the request came from the sailing club or representatives thereof?
Correct.
And
So it's the sailing club and the Wisconsin club together that are putting on the event.
Understand, but the request came from them. They saw a need that this would fulfill. They didn't necessarily have to go out and look for a lot of different people to bid on it or anything like that. It was a choice of theirs because they're putting on this event.
Correct.
And my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, but we have other street vendors who offer other merchandise or food or drinks or things which presumably add some capacity and some diversity and some variety to what can be had in downtown Grand Haven on busy summer weekends. And I believe that's why we set up the street vendors in the first place, not because we're trying to put our brick and mortar people out of business. We certainly don't want to do that, but because it adds a little extra dimension to our downtown. And I think that this could be viewed in that light, particularly since it is at the request of the organizers. So I understand from the write-up here, we were not directly competing with other businesses, although other businesses could have stepped in and provided the service, but that would be true of people who sell other things on the street vendors. So I don't really have a problem or see a big conflict with this one.
I don't have a problem with this, for weighing in on that one. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for an entrepreneur to have a shot at a very busy weekend and a great location. Hopefully it's a success for them. It is only for 6 hours. I think we can handle that in the downtown area for a 6-hour juice run. And hey, if it's great and successful for him or her, whoever the proprietor is, at some point in time, maybe there'll be a juice bar moving into one of our brick and mortar buildings downtown. So I think this is a great feeder opportunity to build the cachet of our downtown. So I'm in favor of it.
Well, actually, there is a juice bar down there called Easy Nutrition down on Chinook Pier. And they weren't asked to do this, and so they weren't even really aware, as that they're relatively new. So I do think it's an issue as somebody. I know there's going to be a lot of people here, but it also is okay. Well, they're a mobile. They're normally at the skate park, from what I understand, and so they see an opportunity to come down and be with where there's a lot of folks, and I totally appreciate that. But I also think it behooves us to look at those that do have brick and mortar buildings, businesses, and that are in the neighborhood, and that are, that isn't, even though it's not the exact same kind of smoothie type thing, they are different, but it is there, and it is competition. So I think we do need to be careful about that sort of thing, is that we don't park somebody with a mobile vehicle in front of somebody with a stationary building. So for that case, even though I can see the good points of this and that there's going to be a lot of people, but I'm going to support the Main Street Board on this and voting no, because it is, and if we would have, maybe if they had been around longer, if they were more visible, we would say, well, why don't we ask them first? And but since that didn't happen. So we're looking at this now, and I'm sure there's enough business for both, but I want to support the board at this decision and say I don't think this is a good idea to park another juice vendor that close to one that's established there already. So I don't know if there's any other comments. If not, we will vote.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Ruger?
Yes.
Caleb?
No. So next item.
To accept a commercial charter slip bid of $7,388 submitted by Dana Bonney to operate a waterborne business that will provide family-friendly eco tours and private charters, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support?
It's moved and seconded. Yes, Shar?
Shar Sese, Community Affairs Manager again. Just want to give you a little insight on this process where we're at. In early April, we learned that Wind Dancer was not coming back to the marina. And we'd been in communication probably since February trying to figure out whether or not we were going to have them as a contractor down there, and they decided not to come back. So at that point in time, we decided, is this something that we want to go out to bid for, some sort of a waterborne type of activity to go out to bid? And we were able to get that out in May, and Dana Bonney, who is a current charter captain down at the marina, was the only person who bid at this point in time for the type of waterborne activity that we wanted to have take place down there. So ideally, this is not the right time of the year to be starting this process. That's why we started communication earlier with Wind Dancer, but we weren't able to come to an agreement with them, and they didn't want to return. So then we had this next alternative option to come about. So ideally, for someone who's operating a business like theirs, like the proposal, it's something that they'd prefer to start earlier in the year so that they could start marketing and that sort of thing. Dana Bonney is here tonight, and if you would like to ask him any questions about what it is he's proposing, he's made some recommendations that he'd like to work with Grand Valley State University to bring some interns on to be able to provide some educational opportunities for the ecosystem of our area, and some other alternative options for people to rent, to have birthday parties, graduations, small weddings and that sort of thing, operating in the place of where Wind Dancer was at originally. So with that, do you have questions about what was presented in the memo or in the documents?
No, but I do have a few comments I'd like to say. Is that I actually went down to Holland. My kids bought me for my anniversary, for my wife and I, to be able to take the tour on the Queen, or what it's called, the Princess, down there in Holland, which goes around Lake Makatawa. And then if it's a nice day, they take you out in the lake. But they explain all the history and stuff in that area around there was really, really good. I actually met people there was a couple there from Japan. It was the first time they ever were on Lake Makatawa on a boat and had a tour. And they had it was like on their wedding, whatever, on their honeymoon. And they were just having a great time. They served drinks. They had food for you. It's a dinner cruise type thing, and explain it all. And if it ends up to be something like that, I think it'd be very highly successful. There's a lot of history here you can talk about. You're actually correct about the ecosystem and stuff on that order. And getting a good plan out there ahead of time is very, very good. So I gotta say, Dan, I tell you, this is, I rented it, I've gone there, I even bought for Holland for other people to go out there and try it again, because it's such a fun time to do. And you meet so many interesting people there, and you just have a good night. It was so much fun. Even though it was windy, it was cold, but it was covered, and just to go out if you want to, but it was a good night. They got to see the sunset. This is a good opportunity to take up this spot there, because the Wind Dancer, my wife bugged me for many years to go, and I was going to say, okay, this is, a big year for us, and I said, well, I'll do it, but now they're not coming back, so shame on me for not doing it last year. But if this is an opportunity coming forward, it'd be great. So I'm all in favor of what you presented to us. I think it's a great opportunity, and it's a good thing to promote Grand Haven.
And we're not prepared, you don't see in your packet tonight a license agreement, because we're not to that step in the process. So there is nothing in there for you to approve for signatures. We have some things that have to be figured out yet. Dana would have to find his boat. He doesn't have that yet. And so realistically, this is something that's probably not going to be able to get started this season. It would more realistically be for the 2019 season.
It is a little late right now.
But that doesn't mean it's not a great idea.
Oh, no, I have to agree. It's so much fun. It really was.
You know, when I read this too, I thought, wow, this is something that would, you know, it's one more thing, one more fun thing to do when you're in Grand Haven. It's kind of like taking the trolley tour, but instead it's a boat tour. And I've done the Angus, where they give you the ecological and the history tour around Spring Lake, and there is just so many cool stories to be told about Grand Haven that I think this would be very successful. And like I said, just like the trolley has been, as just a lot of fun for families and other activity, and a great way to use our the great waterways that we have available to us. I think this is terrific. So I wish you well, and it's, you know, from my point of view, I know we haven't voted yet. But that's my endorsement. Yeah, I'll be optimistic as far as, I just think this sounds like a really good idea. So,
according to the brochures here, I should be looking forward to a dolphin sighting. And, okay.
No whales?
No.
Yeah, come on up to the microphone. Yeah.
So Dana Bonnie, actually Chinook Pier business since '84, since it started, and great to be back here talking with everybody about a potential expanding what we've done over the last 30 plus years. So yeah, those are some comparable type businesses like in Clearwater, and this is a real common concept around the U.S. It's really, the idea is that we want to be able to have anybody from 0 to 100 to be able to enjoy the waterway here. And myself, coming to Grand Haven, we moved to Grand Haven originally when Chinook Pier opened to be able to start our charter fishing business. My dad had another job, but this was one of the reasons we moved here. And along with that, when I first got my captain's license, my Tuesdays were spent as relief captain on the harbor steamer. And I did this through college, and I even did it afterwards. A little bit after college, I did do some helping out through 4 owners. So as far as what we want to do is we want to incorporate that history, probably try to work with the museum also to get, you know, kind of some fresh spin and more ideas for us. And then also try to tap into, hopefully, Grand Valley to get some interns involved to be able to get a eco type thing. The Angus thing is a really cool deal. You know, we probably won't have our entire staff be that because we have timing with as far as college courses and credits go, but we are going to, you know, try to do some different things. We do have a few little issues we will have to go through as far as, you know, timing is a big thing right now. Had this been like in the winter, we could have probably pulled this off. A vessel like this is not the easiest to locate. Most likely this isn't going to be a new vessel. The costs are outrageous for the short season we have here. But we're going to, you know, do diligence to be able to get that, and having a time frame right now to be able to, you know, somewhat go to a license agreement and be able to work forward gives me a good opportunity to secure the vessel, Coast Guard approvals. We have to even get the full route approved by the Coast Guard as far as where we're going to go, and then be able to go forward to do things such as literature, Chamber of Commerce, the tourism bureaus. And then also all the getting all the e-commerce and everything set up, which is critical. Even like my charter business, I mean, we're right now in a little bit of a slow time, and we have done a full revamp just to go to online booking because everybody wants to know, can I just do it on my phone? So this business operates on that model everywhere else in the U.S. So, so that's why, you know, I know that you have some consideration that we, you know, there was even consideration that's been recommended by administration. The earlier that we can get a go-ahead, the better off this is going to be able to secure it and to hopefully, you know, have this as a successful venture. My goal is to have this as a long-term, you know, venture here, and you'll be able to, a good addition, like you say, in addition to the trolley. I mean, it kind of falls, you know, right in that line with the tourists that I see every day on Chinook Pier that I've seen since day one. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer any.
Yes, sir. So are you planning on starting in 2019 then, or?
Right. So had we had time, because what we're looking at is by the time we get a license agreement probably nailed out, I mean, I'm sure we could, with approval tonight, we've got to go to the license agreement stage. There are some things that I did talk with Shar about that I feel are going to be successful, that there's going to be some consideration moving forward. One thing the sailboat did not have, and I think it was a very big flaw, was they did not have a point for bookings when the boat was not there. They did not have some type of office type, ticket booth that, I've got pictures that I can actually distribute to council that is common-wide everywhere. Let it be Clearwater City Marina, San Francisco, Pier 39, where you can go all over the U.S. There has to be some type of physical place that my potential customer can come up and purchase when we're not there. That's a very critical part of this, and we also, have to iron, some things out with the agreement. So those are some things I think we're gonna have to do a little bit of work on to make it work. I just don't want to shoot at the hip and be selling tickets off a boat. I want it to be done the right way, and of course, something like that, it would be aesthetically, with the look of the waterfront, and keep it in mind, we have a view we're trying to, keep and whatnot, but obviously not blinging flashing lights all everywhere, but something where we have at least a point to be able to get that to the user. So between that purchase and then with the Coast Guard approvals and stuff, there would be the best opportunity, it would be like Coast Guard Festival, and I'm not going to start something then. The beautiful part about being able to come into, say, next season with us is it gives me a full opportunity to ramp up the marketing. And we're looking at, birthday parties, all the corporate events. So there's a lot of home shows and stuff in Grand Rapids that we can start to work at to be able to, help develop that. And then that gives me into, basically the primary season would be Memorial Day to Labor Day for the most part. We do run into some issues since I've been there since day one. Before Memorial Day, we have a lot of surge that comes in on that wall. That type of investment, I'm not going to sit there and let it get banged up before Memorial Day. Maybe the week before, we could probably come in somewhere around that time frame. And when we get into September, the same thing happens. We get a lot of damage just with our boats, our charter boats as it is. So we have kind of a short window, and to just try to shoot for something to get it going for a few weeks, I would like it to really be polished, where we have we can go at it the right way, so.
And Harbor Trolley may have an old trolley they're trying to get rid of to put some pontoons on there.
No, I'd like the free plug like Chrono Pump gets. That's priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions or comments. And I agree that, I think the idea sounds good. It sounds like it could add a nice feature to the downtown, to the waterfront experience. Not just downtown, but the entire Grand Haven experience. And as far as I recall, Harbor Steamer did pretty well for quite a period of time.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if the boat just got tired or if it was
a lot of maintenance.
The novelty ran out or what, but I guess it's up to you to keep it a new and fresh experience. One of the pictures you showed here says, and from Chattanooga, says water taxi with a big phone number on it. Your concept is to pick up and drop off at the same point.
Correct. So
you're
that
not
is
taking
just like
people
a
somewhere.
Vessel like
Okay.
there, and we're looking really to get like on that picture. For me, because of our seasonality, it's real important to get something that's enclosed or has protection, just like the Harbor Steamer did later in its life to be able to be used. But the idea would be strictly departing, coming from and departing from that location. So that's where the whole thing of I just can't go get a boat or show up and say, hey, I've got one, because if it's not going to be here, then I'm not going forward.
Right, and I think it would be nuts to try to do this year. It would be really rushed, and you're trying to create a business out of whole cloth. Basically, you're starting from nothing, and nothing but an idea. So, I think that this should be successful, good, and good for the city, and hopefully good for you as well. Because it's going to be a lot of work.
The only other thing I'd address with council, manager and Char also, I know our current license agreements as charter boats are currently on a year-to-year type basis. I don't know, where if there are any issues, it's renewed. My concern might be when we get into a license agreement type negotiation is I feel I'm going to need some longevity instead of being in a year-to-year type contract. My concern is some change happens on the waterfront, whatever it may be, I need some insurance, because if all of a sudden I don't have an agreement, what do I do? I'm gonna be sitting with this thing, it's like gonna be the elephant that my wife is gonna probably put me in jail for over.
When there's no reason a license agreement has to be simply annual.
So down the road, that's something, that is a concern that I definitely want to, try to let everybody know that is something I feel would be very important, is to at least have some type of options or, some longevity on it.
All right, and I have ridden on the Wind Dancer, and it was a fun trip, very brief, out on the lake and back. And what you're offering is going to be a nicer tour, assuming that it goes together as you presented it here.
Our focus is going to be Grand Haven, the river and Spring Lake, so we can not be as limited, kind of like the harbor steamer was. We're going to be able to, depending on licensing, get as close out to that pierhead as we can. That's something the Coast Guard, depending on the actual vessel, makes the final call on where it can be. But I would love to get to that pierhead and make the turn there every day.
I do have a couple of questions for Shar and for Pat. I was a little surprised to see, because I don't remember seeing anything about this RFP earlier, and I don't think it was brought to council sooner, or was it? And I missed it.
No, it was not.
I didn't think so. So basically, when Wind Dancer pulled out, you created an RFP which defined a business, and then you went looking for somebody to do that business. That seems a little odd.
We did the same type of procedure that was done when the Wind Dancer came into being at the city. So I went back from that old model, looked at that RFP, and did the same language. We added a little bit more to it to make it be more presentable for the waterborne activity. Because we've had other businesses approach us. The Pedal Pub for the waters has approached us on other things. And so we thought that the terminology of the RFP would promote maybe some different options that business owners would be interested in having down here. But I think the timing really was the...
But the RFP you put out was broad and would have allowed a variety of different business models?
Yes.
Rather than specifically writing it for someone who was established here and could pick it up.
I'll jump in here a little bit. So as far as, so was it like the idea spawned the RFP thing? I will tell you that Sandy, even as far back as 4 or 5 years ago, I've been in contact with Sandy Cat that if an opening did happen, I would like to know, this is something my wife and I have been researching the last 7 years. So, so it's kind of when Shar presented it to me, she even said, look, we left it very broad in case and there were some other ideas that, we had heard were floated around. And I thought, that we don't know if someone did jump on it, you never know. It's always a good opportunity because I may not have the best idea. I know what I would like to do, but someone else may have one that's better, so be it.
Well, I'm encouraged that, not having seen the RFP, I'm encouraged that it was more broad than just simply go find somebody to buy a boat and run tours. It was more ideas were available than that, or at least you were open to more ideas than that. The other question I have for the two of you is, what exactly are we voting on tonight? You're not doing a license agreement. We haven't set terms for that. There's the $7,388 for a commercial charter slip. Is that for this year, the remainder of this year? Is that without a license agreement? What exactly are we voting on?
My intent was hopefully that you were going to have more than one application to review, but you don't. So in my memo to council, I said, do we want to look at this one application? Do we want to look at it for the 2019 season? Do we want to look at it to try to get it to work for 2018, which I wouldn't recommend? Or do you want to wait and not accept a proposal and then rebid in the winter time when perhaps you might get more interested bidders? That was the reason behind.
Yeah, this whole thing seems to have come up pretty abruptly and without time for anyone to really put together the actual business. So I'm a little surprised at the way it came to us. I think it's a great idea and I think it could work well. I just want to make sure I understand that the process was a good open process because the city's involved now in helping someone set up a business or at least encouraging someone to, and also that we're actually voting on something that's real doable, that makes sense. So would the $7,388 be for a commercial charter slip for 2019?
Correct.
And not for 2018, and as they might say, that ship has sailed. We don't have time for that. And just so I understand what it is that What's in this motion, what we're voting on, what the consequence will be? Pat, do you have any clarity to that?
Well, yeah, if this is a number that we've gotten for 2019, we would then begin working out the license agreement that's acceptable to both parties. My question of Shar is, can we still use that slip for rental this season?
Yes.
For overflow, we could probably get 2 boats in there.
I did even say that to Shar in discussion when we were talking, like, there would be, there's a couple things with that too. There would be definitely some opportunity for you guys to be able to, with some overflow, 'cause even being in Chinook Pier, I mean, I know how that is. I mean, if we have someone in the past that's left for a week, they, utilize an open slip that we have there. And I did also, Shar was down in the waterfront when we did look around. Going forward, we would have some little cleanup to do on that dock, I believe, also. Not that would be a hindrance to starting, right away, but there was maybe some opportunity there, as far as timing goes too.
All right, thank you.
I guess it's fortuitous that we've got a known operator who's got a history in Grand Haven that suggests they'd be likely to be successful and have a stake in the area going forward. It's not a fly-by-night, and I think it was publicly noticed on our website and otherwise. I mean, how else did we advertise this?
We advertised on our website, we put an ad in the newspaper, and I reached out to every charter captain. They all got the same RFP so they could share it with their friends, family members, whomever they might know that's in that business.
So essentially at this point then, for me, for clarification, we're voting to approve this for 2019 for $7,388, and that's it at this point.
And to negotiate the license
And negotiate the
agreement.
license
We'll
agreement.
bring back the final license agreement
Correct,
for final
for
action.
final approval. And the proprietor has indicated they'd like an extended term, which I understand as well, so.
Gotta pay for that boat somehow.
That's right, yeah.
And just for the record, the Wind Dancer did only have a year-to-year contract.
Okay.
So, and the charter captain's license agreement is for 5 years.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
So I think we have some things to consider with an extended contract.
Yep.
If we have any hope in the, next 5 years of doing any sort of completion on that Marina Phase 3, that could impact long-term a contract. So that would just need to be known by both parties if there was anything that we were going to do differently down there to affect that particular dock.
Gotcha.
No other place down there that something that big would fit, except the seawall, and you don't want to go there.
Absolutely.
$10
Well,
a night.
Might take that rate.
Such a deal.
Well, at any rate, as far as the overall business is concerned, as my fellow council members have already mentioned, I'm very much in favor of it. I love the idea. I do remember the harbor steamer, and I probably was on a tour with you, and it's not so long ago, but it was a long time ago. So at any rate, I think it's a great idea, so thanks.
I also think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be a great addition to Grand Haven. I appreciate you bringing that forward to us and about being willing to invest in a project like this. I think it's probably good for you and probably good for us too. So I'm completely in favor of it.
Especially the dolphins.
Well, we might not have dolphins, but I do have a question about, we have eagles, and I have no idea how far up the river that you,
The plan is, the plan is if things go as I'm thinking, typically former route on the harbor steamer, original route was just from Chinook Pier, went right up the river, which was a huge mistake, missed a lot of marketing opportunity. And that they were able to make it about to the country club is where they made it. So my plan is to be able to have the route, the waterfront boardwalk is obviously a huge thing for me as far as the marketability of it. There's a couple different concepts in there that we can even look at, and some, this is going to, as far as the route goes, probably, those sightings are going to be just depend on, time of the year, a lot of it also.
Yeah.
The hard part is, and as we get into, by mid-May, that starts to drop quite a bit, you know, we don't see them near as much, so. But you know, another option is, that I've even looked into is, going lake instead of into Spring Lake, having a more of an eco tour that goes up into, follows the Grand River up further when we get into the marshland, et cetera, so forth. So those are some things that, you know, as this comes out, I mean, initially we've got to kind of come out, you know, as demand gets this, you know, ramped up, and, you know, I'm expecting, obviously, that's one of the reasons, you know, like with the license agreement, I think it's be real important to be able to have some long-term, because it's going to take multiple years for this to build, you know, to the volume where it's going to be where I want it to be. It's not going to be an open light, you know, turn the lights on and everybody walks up and just jumps on.
Right.
But the idea would be to, as much as possible, be able to do that. I mean, the falcons, you know, they're on the smokestack. I mean, great. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, we see more wildlife now than ever. It used to be going up the river, we would see one heron maybe out of every 3-4 days. We would be on the harbor steamer working all day long. So now, I mean, it's common. So I mean, you know, egrets, heron, pelicans. There's just a ton of it. So.
Maybe great opportunity for photographers.
Oh,
along the way,
excellent.
so. All righty. Any other comments?
I was going to wear an orange shirt today.
Okay.
So.
Okay, Derek.
Signature.
Missed
All
your
right,
chance.
I think we're ready to vote.
Fritz?
Yes.
Excuse me, Manetza?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bruger?
Yes.
And Caleb?
Yes. Thank you. Next item.
To approve the Grand Trunk Western Railroad Depot Building rental proposal. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Is this you, Pat?
This is really kind of a temporary interim measure, just so that as people approach us between now and whenever we get around to renovating the building and coming up with a permanent plan, we just wanted some guidelines set forth for what we would charge to use the building for private groups, and this is what Shar came up with.
Right, and it's similar to our agreement that we have as far as Mulligan's Lodge. Is that comparable?
That is correct. I based the rental agreement, hours, 4 hours, 8-hour rentals. That's what we do currently with all of our facilities, the airport, the community center, and Mulligan's Lodge. So I thought we would keep that same type of format. We also do non-resident, resident, for-profit, and nonprofit rates. Nonprofit and resident rates are the same.
Okay.
So based on the phone calls that we're already getting about the availability of the depot, I'm going to guess we're going to have a lot of popularity there. I think it's going to be very similar in demand to the lodge. And so we did some pricing that's structured a little bit differently than Mulligan's Lodge, in that based on its sheer location, I think the demand will allow us to charge a higher rate on weekends and a lower rate than during the week. So those were some of my ideas in proposing the rate structure that I did have there. And then also at the lodge, we do allow alcohol, and there is a higher damage deposit fee that is charged for those guests who serve alcohol. So it's a $100 refundable damage deposit with no alcohol, and a $200 refundable damage deposit if you are serving alcohol. We also, at the lodge, ask the renters to wipe down the tables, clean up their mess, take out all of their items in order to get that damage deposit back. Because of the high demand out there and what we anticipate at the depot, it helps our cleaning crew be able to do the deep cleaning in between rentals, which is oftentimes not always available to them. So that will give us the opportunity, will give those renters an extra hour that we won't charge them for to do that cleaning in there, so that they don't have to cut their party short. But at least that will give us a little bit of a heads up for the cleaning crew to come in and do the deep cleaning in case we have a second rental in that same day. So There were some things that we needed to consider there. We are trying to transition some of our tables and chairs that we have at the lodge. We've done some replacement of some tables at the community center, and hoping that we'll be able to just do a round robin, take some of the things that we're replacing at the community center out to the lodge, and then have some tables and chairs available from the lodge to go out to the depot, so that we don't have to purchase anything if we don't have to. At least in the first year, if we can get by without having to purchase anything, it would be beneficial, since we don't know for sure how the rentals will be out there.
So does this leave room also for, like, some of the things that like the winter market that the chamber did, or the art market Fridays, or is it Sunday art market or whatever?
Yes, we'll definitely have some what I would call blackout periods where it won't be available to rent, and so we'll have to do very similarly to how we do the special event calendar. We actually put that out on a calendar that multiple people who are participating in having those events take place. We'll have to do something similar with the staff at the community center as we monitor that and make sure that we're looking at what's happening down at the Waterfront Stadium. Pat will give me some suggestions from time to time on things that we need to block out for. We would not plan on having it available for holidays like the 4th of July. It wouldn't be available during Coast Guard, and those types of dates would be blackout periods, is what I would suggest.
All right, any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
Interest?
I have a question.
Yes.
What's our break-even point on here's what I'm getting at by asking that question. It's an amazing facility. It is on the water. It is backed up to Waterfront Stadium. And for 4 hours, for 8 hours, I live here, I can get it for $300. Our wedding reception was $3,000, and that was 20 years ago for a place. So I feel like we're leaving a fortune on the table. And not that we necessarily need to make a whole lot of money. We are a city and we're providing a service. However, so that brings me back to the break-even point.
We can certainly add that in. So we have a different price at the community center for wedding receptions. In the ballroom, we have a different price for large gatherings in the lower room at the Escanaba. So we can add that sort of pricing structure in here if that makes the most sense. And it certainly is much more demanding if you have 100 people in there for a wedding reception than if you have 20 people in there for a meeting.
And I think my point would be, at a minimum, I'd hope we're covering costs, but if we have a wedding reception in there with 100 people and we're charging them, and they're there for 4 hours and it's $225, it's going to take $225 just to clean up after them. So I want to make sure we're not losing money,
sure,
and then we're not paying for the air conditioning, any of the utilities that are on, and so I guess what I'm getting at is, without some more numbers there, I don't think I can approve this personally, just from a business standpoint.
Yeah, and this is very temporary. This is kind of a, I was hoping that we'd have something ready to go in terms of a renovation before now, but we've not done any work to the building. It's just empty otherwise. So we're getting zero. We have no current standards. People are asking us, can I rent that building? And we're saying, well, no, we really don't have rental rates available. So right now it sits unused, not being rented. And weddings are not something that we're planning on having down there.
I really don't think that it will be.
We're thinking about a prohibition on weddings, because what we're worried about is with weddings, they're going to open up those back doors, and they're going to want to occupy the stadium area outside, and it'll be very hard to keep the alcohol inside, and I just don't feel real good. So if anything, if there were discussion about maybe not allowing alcohol to kind of avoid that sort of a party, we're just talking mostly about meetings and small receptions. There'll be no cooking allowed, no hot plates of any kind in there, so any food you're going to have are going to be boxed sandwiches type approach, because the fire marshal, without it being sprinkled, you can't have anything lit in there.
Except for the patrons. No, don't get me.
Very temporary. Very, it's not very well thought out, because it's just something we want to get in place for those that want to use it, say this summer and this fall, and maybe this winter. So we've got something, but hopefully in the meantime we're working on a more robust idea of a renovation and new use for the building, which I think you're right, needs to
Yeah,
include a more.
And I'm good with that, Pat, and I appreciate that the admission that it's, we're flying a little bit by the seat of our pants trying to open the doors, and I think it's wonderful. We got a great opportunity, great venue, and why not use it? My concern is losing money just by opening the doors at these rates. And I'll bring it up again, $150 for a resident for 4 hours on a day when it's 100 degrees outside and we got the air conditioners blasting and they're using water and then we got to send a cleaning crew in after them. I think we're losing money. So I just love to see a little bit more of a, what's my expense? How much is it going to cost me? And maybe I'm too business minded to do that, but there you go.
Well, part of it is people are
they're going to help clean up.
They're gonna help clean up. Its maximum occupancy is 100 people the way it is right now, so you're not gonna have huge groups in there. It's gonna be smaller groups. Because there is a limited capacity at this point until further work has been done, so.
So the last spring we talked about, last winter and last spring we talked about a permanent vendor occupying roughly a third of the building. And we saw some different ideas and proposals for that, and I don't know if those have fallen away, if they just weren't ready, and we're not ready to talk about those things, but at some point we were going to have a permanent vendor who would take care of the place, keep it clean the restrooms. None of that is here, so I assume that this is because we're not ready to go there. Would that be fair to say, or is that whole idea gone? And now it's just going to be...
That's fair to say. What you just said is accurate. The architect that we met with has got some ideas. I just met with her last week.
So
at your meeting of July 2nd, you should have some ideas and drawings to look at.
Okay, but given what Josh's questions he's raised, which I think are excellent questions, and your responses are kind of, sorry, but nebulous. It's a little bit like we hadn't thought about this use, that use, or the other use, and maybe it needs to be, maybe we ought to prohibit weddings or one thing or another. I don't think this is ready for our action. I think it needs to be nailed down a little bit exactly what this is about. Whether the dollars add up or not, I can understand where these do look low. Maybe you're not getting much in return except for a fabulous location, but that might be worth something to someone. So I think this, personally, I think this should be tabled or postponed until you flesh it out a little better.
We can certainly get some utility costs. Those are going to be real costs that are current. We can get them, for...
I mean, is the bill, what's the state of the building right now, today, if I wanted to go in there and have a party?
It's rough.
Yes.
So it's not really ready to rent to anybody for any purpose. Will it be in the next week or two, or is this gonna take a while?
We'll be able to clean it up a little bit. You were in there not too long ago with a meeting, and it's just no different than it was then. It'll be fairly rough, but it's a nice location, like you said. There's no real amenities. It's not set up as a rental. It's just the depot as it was, where the floor where the old, was the little truck that sat there.
Yeah.
Little, that's kind of
grocery
got a
truck.
piece of plywood over it, and it's much like what you saw before. It's usable, but not real attractive, but very usable, and people want to use it like it is.
Yeah, I don't.
A price, and so we just thought we'd come up with a price, or we can say, well, no, we're not ready.
I don't think we're ready, but maybe, that's me.
There's two of us here.
I'd like to hear from the rest of council.
Like the two grumpy Muppets on the end of
Yeah,
this.
that's us.
I gotta say, I don't think we're ready either, I think some of these rates are a little low, and if you're gonna add air conditioning and cleaning up, I don't think these are enough either. I know the place is rough and it's not in great shape right now, but it's a great location, and there's already people that wanted to come into it. I think we should table this until next meeting.
Well, let me just, I don't know if I said it. I love the idea, though. I do. So as a temporary short gap, a stopgap or whatever it is to create some exposure and to get some people in there, I think it's wonderful. And we don't necessarily need to make a huge profit. We just at least need to cover our expenses. So I'd just like to see that at the minimum.
Sure.
There you go.
I can definitely do some more numbers.
Just, feel badly when it's sitting empty during our peak season, and there's lots of people who'd like to use it. We're gonna have it, safe right now, don't turn up the air conditioning when there's nobody in there. I hope it's not being cooled right now. I guess I'll be checking that tomorrow. I
Right.
shouldn't give Eric that heads up. I know he's listening on the radio.
It's 62 degrees right
Yeah,
now.
there's no reason we should be air conditioning it because one guy's got his office in there. So hopefully we're not. But the opportunity's there, the space is there. If you want to double these rates, great. You know, and it is a little
sure,
knee-jerk, but it's June and people are down there. We're going to open it this week, and these were some numbers that at least we're covering some of our costs. And if we don't go with it now, then we got to wait till at least July 2nd, and we'll do that. You know,
Okay.
we'll put something together for July 2nd.
Can we
Well-
vote June? Yeah, you're right, July 2nd, 2 weeks.
See, this is the thing, you know, we get, you know, you get something or you get zero. So I'm for something over zero, because something is more than nothing. So, and the condition that it's in, which is pretty much just empty space, so you know, it's been explained, you know, we haven't done anything, and we haven't nailed anything, we haven't made it fancy, we haven't invested a whole lot in it. Somebody wants to rent it, do we take their money, or do we say no thanks? You know, if we want to see if we, you know, are we making any money, or at least break even at it? It's exposure, it's ideas, and people are willing to pay to do it. So I don't think it's that bad an idea. No, is it fleshed out? No. Is it ready for prime time? Maybe not, but I think it's ready for the after midnight.
We
You know,
could
when
test
it's-
it for
Yeah,
this
the test market. This is kind of like, you know, the test market to see if it'll fly, so.
Well, I'll make a,
Go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion to postpone this until July 2nd.
I'd like to get a word in.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
ahead,
thought you were
Michael.
ready
I
to.
haven't even spoken yet on
Sorry,
it.
go
but
right ahead, yeah.
If you don't mind.
We'd appreciate it, Mike.
Yeah, I have to agree, Jerry. I mean, we're better off to get something than nothing. It's not, yes, the location is great. It's great. But we've been in there. It's not what you really cracked up to be inside there. It's not exactly a good rental place. And to have something in there like that, I think you did a very good job of coming back with some rates for us. At least get us somebody in there. Like Jerry says, something's better than nothing. And if you want to put no weddings down there, you can't do that in there anyways. We don't want it. But as far as meetings and stuff on that order, I think the rates that you set was pretty much consistent with all the other rates that we have at the time, because the simple fact is, the building's not prime time yet. It really isn't. It's a great location. And if we jump up to the conclusion that we can get X amount of dollars more, you know, where are you going to get yourself when you do remodel it and you do get it done? Where are you going to set your rates then? So I think at least we get a little taste, let the people get a little taste of it first and see what's going on. And maybe get some ideas. They might even come back, the people who rent from us might even have some ideas that what they seen when they were in there renting it, saying, you know, this is what you might want to think about when you do change it. I thank you very much, Shar. I think you did a good job of figuring out something. And I don't think I need to wait, because if you wait longer, it's just that much less time. Something's better than nothing. If we got people that want to demand to use it now, let's collect some money. I mean, it's better than just sitting vacant. Any building that's vacant is not good. If we keep postponing it and postponing it and postponing it, was just, thank you very much, Char. I'm happy. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's an old depot right now in a great location, but it's going to be a great depot and a great location later on where we can actually come up with a good, solid figure for it. But as I said, find out what the cost is when it comes down to operational. And if these rates come out fine, I'm happy. If these rates don't, well, then we can readjust it again. But I just think, just do a little homework on it, and I'm ready to vote yes. I'll vote yes for this, just to move forward with it for now. I'm willing to at least have something coming in. Go ahead. I'm done.
So what do we want to do? Do you,
Well, Josh was about to make a motion to postpone.
half baffled and almost don't even want to make a motion, but I'm going to make it anyway. I'm going to make a motion to postpone this until July 2nd.
And I don't like to rush into things, and I'm going to support that motion to postpone. I think that and I don't want to do repeated postponements. I don't want this to drag on and on and on, but I think that there's more here to be thought about, so I'm going to support the motion to postpone.
Okay.
We would have to vote on.
So we're going to vote on the motion to postpone.
Manetza?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
No.
Ruger?
Yes.
Caleb?
No.
Okay.
On to the next item.
To approve a 7% increase for water consumption and ready-to-serve charges, and an increase of 11% for sewer consumption and ready-to-serve charges each year for 3 years, effective July 1, 2018, July 1, 2019, and July 1, 2020. The Infrastructure Task Force and the administration recommend approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there support?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. So, who wants to?
Yeah, at our
jump in
last
on
meeting, the recommendation, when we talked about it at the last work session, was to do a 5-year series of increases, 12% each year on sewer, 8% each year on water. And there was clear reluctance to do that, and so there was a little bit of discussion about, well, what if that's not acceptable, what might be acceptable, and the idea was thrown out there that maybe we lower it by 1% and reduce the number of years by 2 years, so go to 7% and 11% and do only 3 years instead of 5 years. So that's what we placed on the agenda tonight. The realization and the reality that we do want to continue investing in our infrastructure, and particularly year one, where we already have commitment to do the lift station, Adams Street lift station, and the headworks at the wastewater plant. That's going to necessitate the first year's sewer increase. So we wanted to get something going, so that's what Jim put together here. He showed how that will impact basic user of 6,000 gallons. I don't know if Vester has that graph that can go up on the screen from the memo for people at home to be able to look at. But it shows that the initial recommendation of the 5 years at 8 and 12%, and then it shows the revised recommendation of 3 years at 7 and 11%, and how rates would react. And what I did want to hand back out tonight, for you to have in front of you. Stop talking until I get over in front of the mic.
It's like lightning.
Yeah.
Wasn't. It was Vester.
It was a nice chart that Jim did, just to give you a quick understanding of what the impact of this. Can you put that up on the overhead? Well, first off, what Vester just got up there, if we could look at that quickly and get the people at home a chance to look at that. The top area on that page there shows what the impact on rates would be over the 3-year period, getting up to an amount of $2.92 for 1,000 gallons of water and $6.54 for 1,000 gallons of sewer. But perhaps more instructive is the line graph below. When you look at the purple line on the top, that was the recommendation from the rate study that we did that shows the amount going out to year 2028. And then the blue line is with this 7-11 3-year proposal. Behaves like you might think it would going forward, where you can see that the 7-11 proposal is significantly less than the 8% and 12% proposal. Now jumping over to the sheet that I just passed out, demonstrates where Grand Haven's rates would be compared to over 100, Jim, comparable communities. 60 comparable communities. We've maintained an ongoing awareness of what other communities are charging. This was a very random draw of communities. It wasn't designed, it was just those communities that responded to a one-time request for information, and we plotted how much their water and sewer rates are. And then Jim applied, the average user and how much that would cost them. And you can see in the upper left, that's the water cost with the proposed increase of 8% over 5 years for water. So this is the 8%, not the, this was the earlier proposal. Jim's not updated this with the 7 and 11%. So water costs at the end of 5 years will still be significantly less than the average, what people are paying in Michigan. When you look to the right, that is, the one on the left is based on today's rates. When you look at the one to the right, that's if you assume those other communities all raise their rates 3% per year over the next several years, where we would be in 5 years. So you can see with the proposed rates, even going up 8%, we're still in the very lower quartile of water rates. Sewer rates, we end up somewhere near the midpoint, about average of what people would be paying in Michigan 5 years from now. And then when you combine them, if you look at the chart on the very bottom in 2023, that's with the 5-year recommendation. So with this 3-year recommendation, we would be somewhere in the lower quartile as far as average rates paid. So that's just to give you a flavor for what the proposed rate increases would do to our rates relative to what people are paying in other communities in Michigan. So I did want you to have that tonight before you talked about this. This is one possible arrangement. We're hoping you act positively on it, and if you don't, we're hoping to get some direction of what your tolerance would be, because we have identified 8% and 12% for 5 years being the amount that would be needed to only build the sewer and water portions of the proposed project list that you've looked at before in the next 10 years. I don't know if Jim had anything to add or if you had any questions. We're both here to answer questions.
When you look at that graphic, what you're really looking at is the rates and how those costs are going to go depending on whether you use 8 and 12 or 7 and 11 for 5 or 3 years, whatever. That same graphic teaches something else. If you do the 8 and 12, that gives you the $20 million that is scheduled basically to be done in that same 10 years' time. You see that we don't have a lot of cash up front, so we're going to have to backload a lot of those projects to later in the years when we've amassed the dollars to make those things happen. If you bring that rate down, you are making a decision not to go forward with your infrastructure. And we will continue to do exactly what we've been doing all along, is if we see a grant, we'll go out and get it. We will continue to get as many revenue sources as we can. But the fact of the matter is that if you really want the infrastructure, you're going to need to invest in the rates. And that's kind of where we are. It's not a comfortable situation for anybody. I'm not out here standing here beating my Bible to make sure that we go do this. It is a council decision. What is your tolerance? And that tolerance will affect what we can actually do.
One of the questions I asked Jim, don't go away. One of the questions I asked when we had this discussion at our last meeting, when we talked about lowering the rates and lowering the time period, and I see that the chart continues to grow, so I assume that you're applying the lower increase in subsequent years.
Right. The first 5 years was 8 and 12. The next 5 years was 5% years.
Right, and I see that in the graph. The question I asked was, and I wanted it to be clear so that everyone on council understood what they were voting for, was if we lower these rates, as time goes on, how much money is available to do the projects that we know we need to do, because we'll make a conscious, eyes wide open choice of what we're going to be able to do and what we're going to forego doing.
I think the answer to your question is
how many projects do we need to do, and do we have the money to do it all? The answer is no, we don't have the money even under this scenario.
No, the question was, between the two scenarios, what's the difference? What will we not do that we could have done under the previous scenario?
That's gonna be an engineering decision, that's not my basis as far.
No, but you know the dollars.
Right.
So we have some idea as to how much, what the scale of this is, what kind of scope we could approach.
I'm going to guess, all right? The original proposal was for $11 million in sewer and $9 million in water. If you bring it down just to the 7 and 11 for the 3 years, that gives me time to see what kind of pattern that's going to give me in terms of money, as we need the money up front in order to pay bills and get things started.
I mean, those lines don't.
At least 25% or more is going to go down from there. So
Okay.
$20 million, you'd probably make no more than $15 million worth of improvements if you started on that structure.
And those lines don't really diverge until you drop out of the 7 and 11% and into the 5% 2 years early. Then you start to see a divergence. The total numbers of dollars is $15 per month.
And like Pat
in
mentioned
2028.
earlier, we do need those dollars up front. One, because we already have committed dollars for the sewer fund, but two, we need to amass those dollars in order to be able to do projects.
Okay, I just want that to be clear to all. Thank you.
Jim, we're raising, I mean, we have to raise, first we raised 11%, there's no doubt about that. And you're asking for 7% this year for water, and that continues for the next 3 years according to this. We're gonna, if we approve this tonight, is that correct? Then what do the sewer rates do for the next 2 years? 7% also?
No, it would be, the sewer rates would stay at 11% each year for 3 years.
So it's 11, 11, 11.
Yes.
3 years.
After that, the assumption there is 5% per year for both water and sewer all the way out.
That's just the assumption, that's not what you're voting on tonight. Tonight, you're only voting on that first 3 years.
Right, first 3 years, but which is 11, 11, 11 for sewer.
Sewer and 7, 7,
And
7.
7 and 7, 7 for water. Okay. I'm having a really hard time with this yet because, I mean, we're seeing more brown grass all the time in Grand Haven. People just aren't sprinkling. We need to come up with something that we can help people to sprinkle their waters and their grass. I think we need to look at a plan that we can offer water meters at a discounted rate. And it's not so bad for people that don't have underground sprinkling, but people that do have underground sprinkling, you know, they're paying $500, $600 to get the plumber in there and then buy the water meter too. So I think we need to do something to encourage people to get a second meter, a reduction meter. And I also think we need to be able to help with that process.
Of the total 4,900 customers, individual customers that we have only about 4,000 that have chosen to get, or I'm sorry, 400 to actually bid for the meters, whether they have them installed in the building or whether they carry it around, the lawn meter. So
and I think a lot of that problem, Jim, is because they don't realize how much money they're going to save over a 2-year period or 3-year period or whatever that is. They look at the initial cost of that and they decide not to do that. I don't think we've educated them enough. I don't think they've been educated enough to know how much money they can save over 2 or 3 years by getting a reduction meter. I think we need to improve. I think we need to improve our communications with that, and I also think we need to help with that.
I've been pretty proud with where my staff has gone with it at this point to explain the pros and cons in relation to it. And, you know, they have picked up maybe 40 or 50 over the course of the last couple of years. We'd be happy to do more advertising, as it were, or investing in getting the word out that yes, this is a possibility to help you reduce your personal use. At the same time, that harms your business because you're not going to be drawing in those dollars for the projects that you want to get done. That's kind of the dilemma you have here, is that it's inelastic. There, you really don't have a leeway here to work with. And so whatever your rates turn out to be is going to be what we can do for you.
But whatever we do, I mean, it might cost us something because people are getting these meters and we're not generating the money that we would have if they didn't. But it's like, do we want to see green grass in Grand Haven or do we want to see brown grass in Grand Haven? And that's what's going to come down to. You know, it is coming down to that.
That's not my side of the
I
decision.
I understand that, but you know, we have to help invest in our town too, and keep people to be able to maintain their yards and their grass.
The sewer rates are already higher than the water rates anyway, and if you say anybody with underground sprinkling, your sewer rates are going to go up 33% or more over 3 years, and none of that and that stuff, that water that you're throwing on your grass doesn't go to the sewer plant. So that is basically, to me, you're paying for a service that you're not receiving. And I feel that. And I've always, we've had this discussion more than once. That's charging somebody for something that they're not receiving, and I just don't think that that's basically fair. So, and in order to say, well, yeah, you can get out of that, it costs you, go get yourself a plumber, and it costs, I don't know, $400 or $500 from what I've heard. And that is, if you want to save some money, you got to spend $500. Or if you don't want to get charged for water going to the sewer that isn't going to the sewer, it costs you $500. And I think that's, I know that's not your deal, but it is my consideration as I'm, and the other thing I've heard from folks is that, because this is a concern for people that, have talked to me on the street, is that it's not just like your personal residence, but if you have renters and you pay their water bills, that all of a sudden, their rent is going to go up because that water bill is going to increase dramatically, or that's actually and the sewer bill even more so. So it is I know that it's your job to raise the money, but it's my job, I guess, to be concerned about the people that have to pay this, that it isn't.
It's your job to hold me in check.
Absolutely.
So that's really what it is. This is more of a decision now. We've given you all the information that we need based on the assumptions that we had. $20 million worth of projects is going to cost you 8 and 12% that first 5 years, and 5% for the next 5 years afterwards. That's solid, figured out information.
Yep.
If those numbers aren't comfortable to you, the problem that we have as administration is what is comfortable? And the reason that I asked last time to do a 3-year time frame is so that we can at least get something that I can start to focus on to be able to plan a couple of projects. Mm-hmm. Because if I have only a 1-year rate increase, I have $200,000 in the sewer fund and $100,000 in the water fund. I can't do a lot of projects for that.
Right. No, I appreciate your dilemma. I also appreciate a lot of the folks on fixed incomes that, and I really do think that, when we did jack up water rates starting a few years back, people did stop watering their grass. Some folks did. I got my meter for $25, but now they're going for $125 or more. So it's because we don't have any more old meters to refurbish and hand out for $25. So those kind of things, I think we need to look at. I know one picture is we need to get this infrastructure done, but what is our city going to look like if we don't take care of the exteriors of our homes and the exterior of our property? But but we got really good looking streets. Or we have really nice water lines, but we don't have any green grass. I know it's the extreme measure, but it is a concern that I have, especially when I have a 90-year-old sister that looks at her water bill and she wants to have green grass, but she's also on a very fixed income and has to figure out how to pay for all this. So that makes it very personal to me, but she's not the only one out there. So what can we, I think that's enough for me to hear from other folks.
Just to say, I'm uncomfortable with these rates yet.
Sorry?
I'm uncomfortable with these rates yet, okay? I mean, the first year we have to do 11%, there's no doubt about it, because we have money stuck in that lift station that we have to pay for. And I realize that, but 11% for the next 2 years and then 7 each year, I can't do that.
To me, this is 2011 all over again. Council, at that time, we needed to do a 30% increase in rates in order to just get to close to where the adjustment should have been at that time. Council said, no way, but we'll look at 12, 12, and 12 and spread those between water and sewer as necessary to get those projects done at that time. We're still in that kind of situation. We haven't solved the infrastructure problem in any shape, but what we're doing is taking sizable bites out of it. The question is how much of a bite do you want, and how? That is really only your side of the fence. I can't really help you with that level of cost that you feel is appropriate to charge. I will do my best to get as much done as we can, but it won't be $20 million over that 10 years based on reducing that percentage.
I was going to ask a question on the meters. I don't know if we'll be able to go down this road or not, but if it helps get some support for this, I might as well ask the question. Is there an opportunity for on-bill financing for the purchase of those $125 meters, or $150, or whatever they may be?
Or $400 or $500 if you have to have a plumber plumb it in, and I think the answer would be yes. Under the same standards we're using that we've currently implemented, so I think we could do that and spread that cost over a long period of time.
So I think that I'd be in favor of that if it gets support to push this through. I think Denny's got a valid point, and that and Jerry, that the increasing costs as far as watering the lawns go, if there's a way that we can help our consumers, or our customers, our residents, save a little bit of money, and it's no skin off our back to do the on-bill financing for them to be able to do that. I think it's great. I understand, as Jim pointed out, that it's, we're losing revenue, but we're giving people a tool that they have at their disposal to control their rates.
Even that's not a panacea, though, because I need to have cash in hand in order to pay those costs and then have that individual pay me back over time.
Right. Yep.
So it's not a panacea. It is an interesting idea. I'd like to explore that a little more. I've not explored that with any depth.
Yeah. I just, for me, if that were to, assume we can come up with the cash if 100 people or 500 people or whatever it is, we've got it in some fund. And if that got us where we needed to be to at least get 25% less than $20 million worth of infrastructure done, then I'd very much be in favor of doing that, if it helps folks out.
I ran some quick numbers on a spreadsheet, and it's 27.2%, so Jim is a certified genius.
Reasonable.
Wow.
Reasonable.
Thank you.
Wow, very good.
That's
So
a pretty good guess, right? I'm very impressed.
I just wanted to take that one topic and then pass it back to, I guess Denny had spoken about that. If that's get you where you want to be with comfort on 7 and 11 for 3 years, to be able to do on-bill financing to help our residents purchase these meters and get them installed, would that do it? Or Jerry? Or Mike hasn't spoken yet down there either.
Well, I'll speak. Here we are, $20 million. We're looking to do infrastructure work in that, and here we're at it again. And I'm going to say, as I said before, is that yeah, okay, we're sitting here, we're gonna reach into our constituents' back pockets and let's take their money and tell them we're gonna make you pay this, and I'm not in favor at all, period, doing it that route. I don't think it's the proper way of doing it because I said no before with the same excuse, and I just don't like reaching in their back pocket and telling them that they have to pay. I know we have a lot of projects to do, but as me and Denny have stated before, there's some projects that we can sit back on because some of these smaller projects we can get done and build up. Yes, we have to have an increase. I understand that. I understand we have to move forward with the lift station and stuff in that order. But I'm not real comfortable with just reaching in their back pockets all the time and just blatantly taking their money and not asking them for it. That's where I'm at. Jim, me and you've been through this route quite a few times before.
And we'll be through it again.
And I'm sure we'll go through it again, so, but I understand.
If you don't do the infrastructure now, you will be doing the infrastructure later at greater cost.
We'll be doing it anyways, and we've been doing it all our lives.
I think...
Before I was on council, excuse me, Jim, before I was on council, there was no game plan. There was no infrastructure to do. It was fix as it goes. And I've been here 15 years, and we've been and out of the first 3 years, we didn't get much done. But after that, the last 12 years, we've been doing much more better than we've ever done before. And it took us a long time to get in this situation. It's not going to be fixed overnight, and we're not going to have it all done. And we're asking the people today to pay for mistakes that were done before, so we need to be cautious of them, to making sure that we don't just grab their money and run with it. I'm not in favor of doing that. I understand there's cost is going to involve. We had chances before. We asked them to go for the 2 mills before. When we asked them the one time, we had, was it a little over 1% on the water fund, and the sewer fund was about the same kind of percentage interest rate on it, and they told us no. But at least they had their voice, and they told us what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a hard. I know I was there with the 12%. I was there, and I know.
That's why really the decision is no longer in administration's hands. It never really has been. But it now gets into that layer, the political layer, the comfort or discomfort that you have of two really competing ideas. One, we want to keep doing this infrastructure. We have to. We're trying to keep that going for the community for the future. On the other hand, there is a cost. And so that's the balance that you folks have to come up with. It would surprise me greatly that you made a decision tonight, but if you gave Pat and I some kind of range that you're thinking of, I'll put some numbers together, put a couple of charts up, and we'll see what that can buy for us. But it really is not a choice of, if you're not going to follow the engineering study numbers, then it's going to be some other method that you're using internally as to what you feel is appropriate. I'm willing to do whatever you want, but it's unfortunately a decision you folks have to make.
See, the other consideration is that we're going to raise water and sewer rates. The question is how much. Then the next thing we're going to come back for is a voted millage to get us out of our other 2 millages, and that's with the relief that some of the Grand Landing is going to be, taken care of within a few years. So that's going to be coming back to us instead of going out, and is very good news. But again, if once you're raising rates like this and then asking, depending on it, you got to try to I've got to try to figure out how much they can stand to raise rates on something they can't control, and then come back and vote on something that they can control by their vote, and that becomes a balancing act to try to get yeses, in both directions. So, you know, exactly what those numbers should be, I'm not sure, but I mean, that's the ultimate goal, is to get a yes. When we see, I'm trying to remember when we were voting, we're doing a millage, that was gonna go into effect what year? I remember it was gonna be into another year or two down the road before, or.
2008?
No, looking forward, was it?
2008, 2015 were infrastructure votes, and those were for 1 mil for 20 years. That created $9.4 million with the values we had in 2008, and it created $7.3 million in 2015 because the economic crash came by and caused us some trouble there.
The analysis on the millage will come after this discussion. This is plenty to tackle right now after we decide it. And you'll remember last time around, we went to the voters first, then we came back and did the utility rates. This time we're asking for utility rate attention first, then we'll bring you millage potential, because you've got to cover the cost of the stuff underground, and then the roads are a different story. So we haven't yet. Some of the stuff we put out there has suggested maybe you wouldn't need to implement a millage until 2020, 2021. And then the 2008 millage will fall off in 2028, at which time you could pick up another mill if that's what the voters wanted to support. But that full analysis is yet to come. We've just kind of superficially touched on that so far.
No, but I know it's lurking in the background, so it's.
I'd like to make a couple more points if I could.
Okay, Bob.
And I was on my first year on council was the year we were confronted with the need for a 30% increase, because previous councils had not done it. And we said, that's an awful big bite, and nobody's even proposing something like that this year, this time. Broken it down, spread it over years, and again, we're looking at that same scenario, and it got us something. And I thought your original rate based on your original proposal based on what was asked of you was solid numbers, and I don't see in year 3 a whole lot of difference in this monthly cost on a 6,000 gallon usage. So I've been through this. It was uncomfortable then, and I understand the discomfort. But a couple of things I'd like to say. One is that the city in the past, well, we're better now, the state, the nation, we're full of crumbling infrastructure because we won't do the things that we need to do to take care of it. It's expensive. And we built so much of it that it's hard to go back and rebuild it now. And so we need to be responsible enough to say, well, this is the world we want to live in. This is how you pay for it. And that was what we said as a goal as council, a sustainable plan to repair, rebuild our infrastructure, keep it as current as we could with the resources available. And so that's why we're having this discussion. It was our goal to come up with a way of doing this. Kind of lost my train of thought here, but we have we've got this work. We've got the work to do in front of us. We need to address everything here. We've talked about that over and over again. We don't want to be like the rest of the state and country and just let things fall apart. And I think that we've been doing a pretty good job. And the other thing I'd like to comment on is that our responsibility as a city, as a municipal government, is to provide a robust, reliable water system, sewer system, by extension through the BLP, electrical system, all the things that people expect to have in their community to make life not just bearable, but very pleasant. It's the kind of community we want to live in. It's not our job to make people water their lawn or to encourage, that's personal choices people make. Some people wouldn't do it if the water was free. But to say that it's our job, we need to take provisions to get people to water their grass or cut their grass or paint their houses or whatever it is they need to do, that's their responsibility. But our responsibility is to provide a reliable, robust water system that will sustain us into the future. And if we're not willing to raise the rates to do that or come up with the money to do that, then we failed as a city government. I think it's as simple as that. The whole notion that we're reaching into somebody's back pocket and taking their money away from them, no, we're not. We're establishing rates for use and for future use and for replacement of use, and that's all a legitimate part of the cost of operating these systems. And I think you need to look at the full, and I think you have looked at the full life cycle cost of systems, and that's where the cost is. So we can understate that cost, we can underfund that cost, we can let things decline, we can try to do little tiny projects and say, hey, we're doing something, and let the big stuff slide until we can't afford it at all. I think that's the conversation I'm hearing around this table. Or we can say, hey, you know, we see it coming. That light at the end of the tunnel is the light on a freight train, it's not the end of the tunnel. And it's coming this way, so let's take care of it. So my challenge to council is, if you don't want to do this, what do you want to do? I mean, we can't just say this problem isn't there. And I think if you look at the built environment around us, you can see that. So I would like to have seen your original proposal on rates. I would like to have seen it carried out 5 years at this lower rate. I would vote for this because it's better than doing nothing. And I think that I'm just afraid that we're going to talk ourselves into doing far too little. And I'm not comfortable with that. So that's all I got.
Well, oh, go ahead, Jerry, if you got
No, I was just gonna say, if you want, you know, it's what a number that you're comfortable with. It's the 11% on sewer, which is quite high, because the sewer is already high. But that's kind of a moot point. And I would knock water down to maybe 5% rather than the 7% or the 8% that was originally done. But so if you want to, you know, arbitrary numbers, those are arbitrary numbers that I would throw out there as a little bit more acceptable than what was there before. So what did that do? I don't know. I'm just trying to do something that I can feel I can justify. So
are you saying 5% for water and sewer? Like, you know, I mean, it's going to be 11 for the first year.
11 for sewer and 5 for water, and that's going to go for 3 years. So that's 33% over the increase in sewer rates over 3 years. And
stick with 11% every 3 years in a row.
Well, I thought that was kind of, we didn't have a whole lot of choice with that. Do we, or do we, or don't we?
First year is the
first year,
critical
yeah.
year.
First year is a critical.
We've already committed to as part of the overall system.
Okay.
Yeah, the second, third year, we're not, we don't.
Oh, I thought we were stuck in
We don't need that. No, we're not stuck in that second and third year.
Okay.
But we'd be okay if you did that.
No, I'm thinking that, you know, because like I said,
and we will make whatever comes out work. That's all we can do. So whatever we can get, if you can give us a tolerance level, that's what we could, if this doesn't pass tonight, then at least we know what to bring back next time to try to get something going.
I don't have a good number for the sewer rate after that first year then, but go ahead, Josh, whatever you were going to say.
Well, I'm kind of baffled right now, I'll just be honest, and I don't know how else to put it. And I you know, if it costs $1,000, and Mike, I guess I'll ask you, just because you're in business, if it costs $1,000 to fix a front right fender widget, I don't know, whatever it is, and all the experts come and tell you that in order to do that, your paint costs this much, your labor costs this much, your insurance costs this much, your machine's going to do it 20 times before it breaks down. So in order for you to stay in business, you need to charge $1,000. And at $1,000, you're just breaking even. You're not even making money, you're just breaking even. How long can you stay in business if you charge $800?
The answer is, how much money do you have in your pocket that you're spending each year?
Jimmy, good. We've been doing this, the city, and as Bob pointed out, and others have said here, historically, this council, prior to me being on board, has done a much better job than previous councils. But we're still tiptoeing around something, and we're still kicking the can down the road to future generations. And the can gets bigger every time we kick it. The problems get bigger, the expenses get bigger. And again, I think I said this the last time, I kind of begged you guys for future generations, don't do this again. And history is destined to repeat itself, so here Bob and I are the fiscal conservatives on the right trying to get this thing funded based on the experts' opinions on what needs to be done, and these are just minimum things to be done. And I differ from Bob a little bit. He used the word robust infrastructure. We're not talking robust, we're just talking making sure people don't get lead in their pipes, making sure we don't have water main breaks, making sure we have, when you flush the toilet, the crap goes where it's supposed to go. And we're not even talking about, and there's opposition to even doing that. There are, if I have a 30,000 gallon swimming pool and I have a 8,000 gallon hot tub and I have underground sprinkling, and I like to wash my car every 2 days because it's black, and black cars always look better when they're washed because I've got 3 or 4 cars. I want to bring the vet out on the weekend. I want to bring the whatever out and wash that. I really want you to keep these rates low because I can afford to fill my swimming pool more. I can afford to pay for that underground water. I can afford to wash my vet every weekend. So please, vote to keep these artificially low, because when you do that, the poor neighbors' kids have to pay this tab down the road. When we have to raise our property taxes on everybody in town, my neighbors then have to pay a subsidy so that I can wash my fancy car and fill up my hot tub and my swimming pool. I'm baffled from a business perspective, I know it's hard. I know this stinks. Nobody wants to be a politician up here to raise rates, but geez, this is the bare minimum. This is protecting the future of our city. Well, I thought 7 and 11 was a compromise, which is why I agreed to put it on the agenda. I mean, last week 8 and 12 is what we need, and I want that. But 7 and 11 is a compromise, and it doesn't even get us close to what we need. So
Okay, so, but what we're doing, because things weren't done for years, and so for the last 10 years we've had a very aggressive infrastructure attack, so to speak, as far as getting things fixed. But what we're doing is we're loading the sins of the past on the people of today to fix it. And it's, so all those folks that didn't pay down the road because things were kept artificially low is now comes down to us to do, to this generation to do, or this generation of taxpayers, when we put it that way, to do. And to say that we don't want to take care of all the sins of the past, and to say you don't want to do that, I don't think that that's particularly fair, because I think we've done that. This group of taxpayers has done an incredible job of tackling the millions of dollars of infrastructure work that we've done over the last 10 years. And to say anything other than that, I don't think is right. What I do object to is saying we got to do everything from all years past, and we have to do it in a very short period of time, no matter how painful it is to, that I don't care if the rich dude is happy that he doesn't have to do it, that, we can keep his rates artificially low. It's all the other people to which this is a real burden. And I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that 25% of the people that live in this community are retired. Many of them are on fixed incomes and don't have the shiny vet to haul out of the garage and wash. They're trying to budget, and all of a sudden their water and sewer budget is taking a leap, and it's distressing. It's stressful to them, and I just want to be cognizant of that. So
I thought too, we started on council, we got a 12, 12, 12, 12, and We had to do that because, first of all, we were taking money out of the general fund to supplement the sewer and the water rates because there weren't enough. And then we did that, and we also built money up to do some infrastructure work with that 12, 12, 12. And I thought after we got to that point, we could go to 5 or 6% every year after that with both of them and make it sustainable and still build money up in our fund to keep it going. But apparently that's not true. So now we have to pay catch up again, just like we did back then. You know, and like Jerry said, we have done a lot of work in town, a lot of work, a lot of catch-up work, and now here we are trying to hit another big balloon of money so we can do a whole bunch in a few short years. And I think that's wrong. I think it's just adding too much debt, if you want to say, or too much. Rate increases for the people we have in town, and and the people with fixed income, and we want affordable housing, but yet we don't want affordable water rates. We don't want affordable sewer rates. We want to make them unaffordable, but we want affordable housing, which don't make any sense to me at all. So you know, I just can't, you know, 11, 11, 11 for sewer. I mean, I know we have to do 11 the first year. There's no doubt about that. The next 2 years, I don't think we do. And I know, like Jerry said, we're throwing numbers out of the hat, and let's see what they'll do. But I don't think 5% of a water increase for the next 3 years is I think that's sustainable. And 11, 11, 11 for sewers, I still think that's too much. I think maybe 11 the first year because we have to do it, and maybe 8, 8, and 8 for the next 2 years. That's kind of where I'm looking at. Again, we're throwing money out of that. If Bob wants to accuse me of throwing numbers out of the hat like he did, but that's kind of true. That's kind of true. But it also has to be affordable for people in town, and I just think that's more affordable than what we're doing right now. And you know, I guess if you want numbers, you're looking at numbers. I guess I can live with a 5 water and maybe 11 this year for sewer, and then 8 and 8 after that. That's kind of what I'm looking at, but I'll let.
Yeah, one of the beauties of democracy is that, you know, the majority rules, and it sounds like the 3 to my left, and I don't know if Bob's still in the game, so to speak, but it's kind of like a poker match, and I'm tapping out. So I think I've said my piece, and you guys know the direction that I think we need to go, that we need to go in. But I'll let you guys figure it out from here on out.
Any other comments, Mike, Bob?
I don't know what else I can say.
Okay.
I'm wasting my time talking, so I'm done.
Are we going to vote on this? Is it then, if we're not going to, we're done talking, and then we're going to vote on this proposal?
The motion on the floor is seconded, so.
All right.
You can either vote on it, or you can postpone it and bring it back in some other form. If it's just procedurally, if it's defeated, it can come back the next time with some other numbers, or is there a waiting period?
As long as it's a different approach. If this fails, then we come back with a different.
I mean, a lot of times with motions, if they fail, there's a waiting period. It depends on what it is, but in a case like this, and I guess I appeal to the parliamentarians here.
Do we want to, you know, if we want to just postpone this to get some different numbers, then we need a motion to postpone.
Since Scott's leaving soon, can I call him at home and bug him about
this? By all means.
Well, you could have a motion to postpone it till the next meeting when we could bring back some adjusted numbers, or you could vote on it if it goes down. We just couldn't bring back the same numbers next time and keep beating you over the head with them. But we can come back with different numbers based on the discussion. It's a different issue then if we're coming back with different numbers. So I think either way would work.
Huh?
Don't matter.
What?
I'm ready to vote.
You're ready to vote, okay. We'll vote, and then if it passes, we got those numbers. If it doesn't pass, we'll come back with some more numbers, so, okay.
Great.
All right.
You got it.
Right. Scott?
No.
Fritz?
No.
Netza?
Yes.
Kruger,
Yes.
Caleb.
No.
Thank you very much for your consideration. I know how hard the issue is.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jason.
Next item.
To approve final amendments to the fiscal year 2017-18 budget pursuant to administration's request dated June 12, 2018, which reflects actual fiscal activity reported during the fiscal year. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and seconded.
A very funny story here.
Okay.
We're due for one.
Or we could use one right now.
And the funny story is that I tried to put the fear of bonhomie into all of the other staff, saying get their stuff here on time and do their analysis in each of their budgets. And I went through all of my stuff too and whatnot. And we presented that on June 4th, and boy, it looks like everything was good. That following day, I had 3 calls. Jim, we got to get this fixed. So this is the final budget amendment for the year, since I don't believe council is going to be meeting again, and you can't do an amendment for a prior or future year. You can only do the amendment during the course of the year. So these are the last ones that we look like are going to help focus our actual results for the year June 30.
Okay. Anybody have questions or comments on, yes, Pat?
Much of what goes on behind the scenes, you guys don't get a chance to see. I know that the finance department and Jim and all the department heads worked very hard to think of everything. There may be 1 or 2 things when the audit comes through that maybe did, but what a thorough job. I was very, very impressed this last week. Jim came to me and explained some of the last things that were caught before they went through that I had not thought of, that thank goodness they were up there and they thought of them to keep us from getting a bad report card from the state Treasury Department. They look at things, and if we end up with a deficit condition, we get dinged on our audit, but I think Jim's got all the bases covered with this final amendment.
All right. Thanks.
I thought you were going to throw in a pun about flushing everything out or something to do with water and sewer rates, but nice. Yeah.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Are they happy? Thanks for all the hard work up on the second floor. If there are no comments, we can vote.
Fritz?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Kruger?
Yes.
McCaleb?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next item.
NODOs.
To approve a license agreement with NODOs at the Bilmar to have exclusive use of the city parking lot adjacent to the restaurant from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, to approve a reconfigured and expanded parking area and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The administration recommends approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
All right. There's no NODO here, but
There's no no. The family's been working very hard to try to keep things on track and keep things moving. We all know that they've been up against some challenges with the DEQ and the weather and everything else, but
building.
Yeah, the building that they thought they were going to remodel and renovate, but they've not been able to do that. So I've been asking them to get me some feedback, and so really just last week he was able to get me some of this detail and got it on the agenda just as soon as I could. Believe that there's support on city council to have this new restaurant on the beach. So this would be the next step in that process.
All right.
So I have a question. First, I'll say that I think the financial numbers I'm fine with. I think that if they're willing to spend that kind of money improving this parking lot, we can forego some rent. So lowering the rent in the longer term, that's all fine. My question is, on the drawing that's attached in our packet, drawing number C-205, it shows pavement outside of lot 125 on the public beach. I assume that's a mistake. I assume that that's not actually how it's going to be built, since the license agreement specifically refers to lot 125. And so allowing them to increase the parking lot onto the public beach seems like we're taking beach away from the public. So I'm going to assume that that's not part of the license agreement. The license agreement explicitly refers to lot 125, which is a platted lot with known dimensions. So is that the case?
That is not the case. They are slightly encroaching onto the public beach with their parking plan, and that's why I included as part of the resolution approving the reconfigured and expanded parking area.
Where does it say that in the license agreement that they're going outside the bounds of lot 125?
It doesn't. It just simply references lot 125.
Where does it reference this drawing?
Pardon me?
Where does it reference this drawing?
It does not in the license
Then
agreement.
this, based on that interpretation, they could make this any size they want.
Now, this drawing is part of the record, and it clearly, in order to get the properly sized parking spaces and maneuvering lanes, they need that extra 3 feet. And, that seemed to me to be a bit of a moot point because the entire city parking lot is on an unplatted portion of City Beach. So the idea that we would have 3 feet of asphalt encroaching onto our own property of a parking lot that we own didn't seem to me to be a compelling reason to resurvey and redefine the whole agreement. I thought this was sufficient. If you'd like, we can certainly go back and do that and redefine and resurvey the area, but it just really doesn't fit. We can't get the full 4 rows of parking spaces on lot 125.
In the interest of having recognized boundaries, limitations on what part of the public beach is consumed by this, I think it ought to be reflected in here explicitly, not just we want a little bit more space.
Would it be sufficient if we reference this drawing as the licensed area?
I would be a lot more comfortable with having something explicit in here saying that, okay, that is the parking lot, not later on when say, well, we really wanted 6 feet or 8 feet or 20 feet, and you approved and you didn't really seem to care where it was. So let's make sure that we reference this drawing with the proper date on the drawing, proper revision number, which appears to be, I can't read it because it's too blurry. There'll be a revision number on here. So let's make sure we reference that. I'm also reminded of previous applicant who wanted to develop Billmar. There was a lot of heartburn about him placing riprap on the public beach across the property line, even though that was going to be submerged under the sand and not even visible to the public. So I think that we ought to at least acknowledge that's where this is. It's not anymore. It's not as much as we want if we're approving exactly this. And I'm not trying to throw obstacles in the way of notice. I think that this redevelopment is going to be good for the city. I hope it's good for Nodos, and I think that the expanded parking makes sense. I mean, I know how to lay out parking lots. I've done plenty of them, even the one on Feast of the Strawberry Moon. I know these dimensions.
Yeah,
but
so I think we could certainly, I won't put any obstacles in the way. It'll just.
Let's make sure that let's make sure we've defined the boundaries and that they don't go any farther. So that's my big comment.
Yeah, I think I'll echo what Bob said. If it's something that's been ongoing and something that's been historical, then yeah, let's honor that as best we can, as easiest we can, and without as much legal mumbo jumbo as we can. But this is clearly an addition, an expansion onto city property, and I'd feel a heck of a lot more comfortable representing the property owners if that were clearly defined. I think the drawing is great. The only problem with the drawing, though, as I look closer at it, Bob, is there's no actual dimension on how far into the...
Well, you got a good point there.
And I don't know if there's a scale on here or not. I mean, there's maybe a scale, but...
Any drawings I've ever made said do not scale drawing.
So that should say, 3 feet west of said property line or something to that effect. I can't, in good conscience, enter a contract that doesn't have at least a few details on it.
Would there be an interest in postponing then? I don't think it's going to impact their schedule. There is some financing issues, but I think when I explained that it's not a hesitancy to give them the license agreement, it's just we want to get it exactly right.
Oh, you're good. I think we should hear from the other three, because you might have a majority voting in favor of this without it. I don't know. I don't want them to have their opportunity too.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
No, it's good to have things in writing. I don't have an issue with that. That way you have something to go back on. I know how it is when when you don't have it in writing, then it can be easily disputed. So it's always good to have things in writing. That way there's no coming back on anybody. So I won't have an issue with that. This will definitely be an asset to the community, and expanded parking, will be good as a turnaround to alleviate parking issues for people that want to get down there with a trolley, and the extra spaces are good for it is a city lot, and it's not a bad deal for us. So, but to have things in writing, I think is always good, as I have learned very recently. Always get it in writing. So that's my comments. I think this is a good thing. It's good for us.
Absolutely.
Good for them.
Absolutely, Jerry. It's a good idea. I wouldn't want to slow down their progress they're doing. I know they have things to do down there. I can just take from a general observation, everybody here, we're in favor of it, except for we'd like to have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted in that order and that way. So I think it's a good move for us. If we want to, should we postpone this for them then, or?
It won't affect any timelines, I'm assuming.
I don't think it will. It won't be open by July 4th.
I'd like to
They
make
won't
a
have a
motion
parking
to
lot.
postpone this till the next meeting and get all your T's crossed and your I's dotted for us so that we have everything in legal form for us.
I'll second that.
Probably not the proper way of doing it, but it's what I wanted done.
Yeah.
All right. So motion been moved and seconded to postpone. Okay. Yep.
Netza?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Ruger?
Yes.
Caleb?
Yes. All right. One more, I think.
To accept the terms of the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Development Agreement as received from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and develop grant funds in the amount of $300,000 to complete the Sluka Field Restrooms Concession Building Improvement Project, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. The Parks and Rec Board and the administration recommend approval.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and seconded. And Pat, do you want to explain to us what this is the new improved Sluka Field?
Yes, this is the project at Sluka Field, and should you approve this, we'll be looking at bringing you a proposal at your next meeting to have Abb and Marsh serve as our architects, following which we would have a stakeholders meeting, bring particularly Tri-Cities Kids League and NORA together to look at plans and make sure we're building the building that's going to serve us best.
That's not it? So you're saying?
That's the existing building.
I like the other pictures better. You got those, Vester? Shows the inside.
Oh, the inside.
The inside.
No, don't.
Remember the
Don't
inside.
Make sure Ryan's not looking. He'll report us to James Kibbert tomorrow if he sees
Health
his inside
department will be
pictures.
over.
It is cinder block construction though, and there's no heating elements inside, so I don't think it's a fire.
Good.
All right.
Just
risk.
luck.
But you can see the roll-off dumpster behind there. I don't know if you heard about the caper where somebody
Have we
dumped some
found that?
construction material into that dumpster.
That was the dumpster.
That was it. A gallon of milk.
The milk
caper.
drinker, yes.
And a white SUV that looked like my wife's SUV.
There we
For
go.
sure
There's
everybody
the
that wasn't
inside
her.
picture.
I wouldn't say anymore.
It didn't look like your wife.
Let's keep my mouth shut.
So we do need to replace that building, and that's what, a good grant application. The Parks and Rec Board was on board with it. If we're able to build it in such a way that some future other users might be able to expand or build on, add lights, put in fence, that's fine. But this is a restroom, concession, storage area for Tri-Cities Kids League and Sluka Field, recognizing the heritage of the youth baseball in the area more than anything else.
Absolutely. I got a lot of history in that building. When I was in high school, it used to be the high school field at one time, and I played ball there. I also put the center field in with Steve Sluka out there. So those insides, I remember the shower rooms in there, they were pretty, even in the late 60s, early 70s, they were pretty crude. So imagine this many years later.
Maybe that's the best picture to remember.
I would take a look at that picture. I think this is a good asset for us. The playground gets extremely used a lot. There's also soccer there besides baseball and everything else that goes there. And having porta-johns there is not very conducive for us as a community. I think putting a restroom in there and adding to it, and plus the building itself was originally built by the Schroeder brothers, if I remember correctly. They built that for a kids league to be in there for them, so it's nice to have kids league involved again, and I think it's a good asset for us.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Any other comments?
So this is being funded through the Public Improvement Fund?
Yes, we have provided for this in this year's.
I saw in this year's budget a slightly smaller amount, but it's the PI.
Trying to remember, because if we've got the contract together, we get busy, by next year, ideally, we would try to plan this for when Tri-Cities Kids League starts their season, because they get all that equipment out of there to use it. So once they get everything out of there, we can clear it out to demo, and they might have to keep it. They might have to ask all their coaches, hold on to your stuff until the fall, till we can get it built and get the stuff back in there.
I'll make a comment on that, is that back when my dad was president of Kids League, him and Mr. Westhoff would be the guys in charge of the equipment. Mr. Westhoff had it all into his basement. Bill Westhoff, which lived right across the street from
my
you.
across the street neighbor.
Absolutely.
Great, what a great guy.
Yep, and that's what they did then, and so I might make a recommendation that they might want to hold on to it for a while if we're not done, but it's going to be new and improved model for them. Not that they don't know how to do it, they've done it before.
I'm hoping that they're able to come up with some kind of rack systems that we can put in for them, so they've got totes that come out and make it real convenient to get the equipment in and out of there. And it fits right on shelves. Hopefully there's a design system out there that we can acquire that makes the most of that storage space. So we don't have to make it as big.
Right.
I was just gonna say, I think I could jump up and click my heels together. I'm so happy. There you go.
It's so late.
And it's late though, so I'm not gonna do that right now.
We'll watch.
Yeah, just I fall down.
Any other comments?
Nope.
Are we good to go on this? I think we're good. All right.
Scott?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Anetza?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
Caleb?
Yes. All right, report by city council. Who wants to start?
Nothing to report?
Nothing to report, okay.
I had a number of things, but it is awfully late, so I think I'll.
Say what?
I had a number of things, but it's awfully late, so I think I'll just hold on to it.
Only 10:20.
Yeah.
If it's important, it's important. YouTubers are watching us. They are waiting with bated breath.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have nothing.
Nothing?
It's getting late.
All right, well, it's.
First time ever, I have nothing much to say.
All right,
I have a
well-
lot to say, but if we'll be here for a lot longer, so.
Well, I don't care because I'm gonna bring this stuff up. This was a great week in that we did the Escanaba Memorial, celebrated the lives lost in that wartime loss of the Grand Haven's Coast Guard cutter. So with the two survivors, there was it was a really nice celebration. Eric was able to cover it and broadcast it, and there was a lunch afterwards, and I was able to meet family of survivors, or family of folks that were lost, both, and talk with them in ways that I had not had the opportunity before. And they and more folks are coming back for Coast Guard Festival. So the folks at the library have done a ton of research to find living relatives of the people that were lost, and also the two survivors. So there's going to be a lot of folks here for Coast Guard Festival as part of that, along with the Escanaba itself, which will be coming here from Boston for the festival. So that'll be an interesting cruise for them. Also this weekend, we did the ribbon cutting at St. Pat's, which was, they have a beautiful new building, and they're, one of the, the things that architects can do, they can take buildings that were built at different times and different levels, and they can patch them all together, and it is perfect. It looks like it was always meant to be that way, and folks did a great job, and very gratified to see. Great asset to the community in building and in folks. Many dedicated St. Pat's parishioners that are part of this community serve on a lot of our boards and are very active in everything that Grand Haven does. And just a big thank you to everybody there. Also, I was at a NOCH event this past week, and North Ottawa Community Hospital, so we don't get past what NOCH is. But again, celebrating the importance of having that asset in our community, the importance of having a full-service hospital there, emergency room always open, maternity always waiting, expectant mothers to come. And so it's something that's so valuable to our community, and we do need to support it. And for people that think that they're being, sent in one direction or another, it's your choice on your health care, and you just need, if you think you're being pushed in one direction, it's your choice, your decision. Tell me when to go to NOCH. And that is my plug for our local hospital, which is priceless.
In Sherwood Memorial this weekend.
Yes, yeah. Thursday, ribbon cutting for the Lynn Sherwood Stadium. Thursday at noon. Be there or be square. So it'll be I know it's not going to be in a weekend, so it means it's not going to rain.
Guaranteed. Because
rain is saved for Saturdays and Sundays. So in the weather pattern that we're in. Anything else that I should be? That's it. Be there, noon. The great unveiling of the new stadium. And if you've been able to sneak around in there, it's pretty awesome. And the sail, I think, looks incredible, and wait till it's lit. It's the city manager's report.
Just at 11 o'clock, we're going to cut the ribbon at Mulligan's Hollow parking lot.
Oh, that's right.
Try to make best use of that morning. If you're able to swing by, that'll be a quickie. We'll just recognize the contractor and the designer, and hopefully some of the YMCA people will show up. And if any of you are able to make it, please do. So 11 a.m. at Mulligan's Hollow, and it's a testimony. It can be sloppy. It can be difficult. We work through these projects, and there's a lot of things that happen during them. When it all does come together, we got both these grants at the same time. And if you remember all the way back to when we first prioritized them, it went through Parks and Rec, it came to you guys, we worked through all these processes of hiring people and doing these projects, and the fact that we're cutting the ribbon for both of them on the same day is remarkable. But a lot of hard work by you and staff, and I know Vester's been involved in a lot of it, so it's gonna be a good day on Thursday.
Save on ribbon.
Exactly, reuse the ribbon.
A little shorter ceremony, a little short.
You gotta buy hot dogs once.
All right.
Tape, we'll put it back together.
Harbor restaurants are donating the hot dogs.
Way to go, Steve.
Pepsi donated the water.
All right.
Good.
That's it. General business, call the audience. One more opportunity for say something. If not, all right.
You waited for a reason.
Been here,
woke him up.
Come on up.
We made him wait this long.
All right.
My name is Warren Rusin, and I like the airport, as a few people here know already. And I have proposed to have a hangar dance at the airport. Simple thing. I have contacted Spring Lake Senior Jazz Band. It would be a period dance, no liquor, just pop. I forgot what I was going to say.
Music and dancing.
The food would be, no vendors or anything, just really, really simple. The band there's 16 kids in the band. They've already said that they'd be happy to do it. It would be on the evening of September the 18th. It would start at 6 o'clock for a gathering. 6:30 would be free teaching. We have a teacher that would come in, and then the dance would actually start at 7 o'clock. There would be a contest for the best period costume, because it's going to be the 60s, 40s, and 60s, and very, very simple. And there's not going to be any fee. It's going to be strictly donation, and the only thing that we would take out of the donation would be what it costs us, and everything else would go to the Spring Lake Band. That's all I've got to say.
All righty. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
I'm sorry,
I just, thanks for bringing that forward. Appreciate that.
All right.
All right.
And Shar has all the information.
Got all the details? All right, good.
Very good.
All right.
I will say this, you guys earn your money. You must have fantastic kidneys.
Another cup of coffee.
Here, here.
Speaking of which, can we adjourn this meeting?
All right, in that case, we are adjourned.
Move around the chair too much.
Yeah, good.